Chapter 1299. The white jade platform was silent. Suddenly, an old man opened his mouth and said, "Imperial Prince, this white jade platform contention is a place for the young elites of the bright barbaric region to display their talents. However, an unknown powerhouse has drawn a boundary to deceive people. Isn't this a violation of the Heavenly Court's original intention of selecting talents? Please allow me to remove this curtain so that it can be seen as fair." Crown Prince Bo-jun didn't say anything, but he was obviously tempted. Seeing that Crown Prince Bo-jun didn't object, the old man became bolder. He cupped his fists and said, "Then I'll be so bold as to break this boundary." Below the platform, Yuan Yu said indignantly, "That finger drawing a boundary is obviously a part of that mysterious expert's supreme divine ability. In a fight of magical powers, there are many that can create their own domains. How can this grandly interfere in a fair duel between two people? In this case, there's no need to use any divine ability that can create a domain." Outrageous. They're clearly bullying others with their power. In the pleasure boat below the platform, little Qing, who was watching the fight from the window, clenched her fists and slammed them on the window, scolding angrily, "The road of peace is so shameless. Sister, those 4 people we met before are indeed not simple. If any one of them went up, Zhang Liang would not be able to resist. And that young man who looks like a son of an aristocratic family is actually a primordial unity immortal. And he's only the youngest of those 4. I wonder how powerful his 3 brothers are, and if they are comparable to that Zhang Jiao." The woman in white said solemnly, "Little Qing, lower your voice. These 4 young masters are not simple. From what I've observed just now, that young master Wujie who went up might be an expert from the future. An expert who can cross time and space to attack is a very taboo. Not everyone can casually travel from the future to the present." Imperial Prince Bo-jun looked coldly at the slightly agitated crowd below the white jade platform. Of course, he didn't have any misgivings. What a joke! When had the Heavenly Court ever cared about the opinions of these itinerant ants? As long as there was a reasonable reason, he didn't mind openly siding with one side. Normally, he would still care about his reputation, lest others gossip about him. But the deal with the Road of Peace was related to a very important plan of his father's, so he couldn't allow it to be ruined. Imperial Prince Bo-jun coldly looked at Zhang Jiao. He couldn't even handle such a small matter. His own younger brother had been slapped in the face, yet he still needed him, the emissary of the Heavenly Court, to help him. Crown Prince Bo-jun's evaluation of Zhang Jiao dropped drastically. Just as he was about to speak, he saw Zhang Jiao appear, cupping his fists and bowing deeply, saying, "Your Highness, please wait. Right now, the battle on the stage is in a stalemate, and victory and defeat have not been decided. If we were to call a halt and intervene in advance, it would be unavoidable for others to say that your Majesty is interfering in a fair duel between the younger generation, and it would be impossible to determine a winner. From what I can see, both young talents still have strength to spare. The battle has just begun, so why is your Highness so anxious?" How could Imperial Prince Bo-jun not know that Zhang Jiao was reminding him that Zhang Liang still had a trump card? He waved his sleeves and swept the table in front of him, saying, "Very well, then I shall quietly watch the 2 talents decide who is stronger." Facing Fan Wujie's reincarnation Dharma body, Zhang Jiao attacked at the same time in countless time and space. He punched out, and it was as if he had been punched 1,000,000 times, condensed at this moment, and the entire small world was crumbling. His fists pierced through layers of space, and the void shattered in front of Fan Wujie's fists like glass cracking. Zhang Liang roared madly, "Boom!" A loud sound rang out. Zhang Liang drove the war chariot, and the wheels of the chariot rolled, carrying countless god kingdoms. The Een lands created by the ancestor spirits, the palaces where the heroic spirits resided, the blessed lands managed by the earthly gods, and even the god kingdoms created by true gods seemed to have been opened. At this moment, Zhang Liang was like a true god, accepting the worship of countless ghost gods and ancestor spirit. The lands of each ancestor spirit contained the faith and souls of countless demons and barbarians. Countless faith and the willpower of billions of living beings surged into Zhang Liang's body. At this moment, Zhang Liang had become a god. Wherever his realm god went, the lands of the ancestor spirits, the heroic spirits of the disciples of the Tao of Peace, the foreign shrines, the true bodies of the earthly gods, and the countless believers, souls, and living beings behind them all prostrated themselves in worship. The power of will, under the effect of the 9 degrees of the great Tao, turned into godly power, and turned into yellow scarves that fell on the heads of countless living beings. Billions of souls, countless living beings, all turned into yellow scarf warriors. Their magic power, blood chi, will power, faith, and everything they had were offered to Zhang Liang. Zhang Liang's magic power had risen to a shocking level. With a single strike, he was able to withstand Brahma Wu Jie's combined attack from countless spacetimes. Zhang Liang had transformed all of the foundation of the Tao of Peace's godly authority into the Yellow Scarf Strongmen. These Yellow Scarf Strongmen were his magic power, his divine ability. The divine ability that Zhang Jiao had created was unimaginably terrifying. Fan Wu Jie's magic power was the vital qi that he had painstakingly cultivated, but Zhang Liang's magic power was that of ghosts, ancestral spirits, and all living beings. He had turned all living beings into yellow scarf warriors, and used their power and wisdom as his own magic power. Fan Wu Jie's magic power needed to be cultivated, and he had to painstakingly refine his vital qi before he could brand his own mark, so that his magic power could be used freely. But how could the power of vital qi compare to the power of ghosts and gods? How could the wisdom of pure magic power compare to the wisdom of living beings? In terms of the quality of the most basic unit of magic power, Fan Wu Jie had lost. Zhang Liang's 9 degrees of the Great Tao required the Yellow Scarf Warriors to give everything they had, using the living beings and ghosts and gods as magic power, containing their wisdom, and gathering their power, easily crushing the vital qi that Fan Wu Jie controlled. At this moment, the terrifying power of the 9 degrees of the Great Tao was displayed vividly. Everything that Zhang Liang saw turned into the laws of the Great Tao. You really think you are smart. Even if you can attack in any time and space, you are no match for the countless ghosts and gods of the Tao of Peace. How many time and space can you attack at the same time? 100,000? 1,000,000? Among the ancestral spirits I control, there are 50,000 golden immortal Tao Lords. Each of them has devoured the souls of countless monsters and barbarians. There are also the Yellow Scarf Warriors of the Tao of Peace, 3,000 Tao Lords. I alone have the power of 1,000,000 Tao Lords. If you had not set up a boundary to deceive others, I would not have dared to use the great divine power created by the Tao of Peace in front of the patrollers of the heavenly courts. Zhang Liang said coldly, "Then let me use the supreme divine power that my brother, Zhang Jiao, comprehended for a period of time, to send you to your grave. Open a new heaven, bring peace. The heavens are dead. The yellow sky shall rise." Nomological laws appeared on the bodies of the countless yellow-scarved strongmen, interweaving to form a mysterious world. This world was extremely noble and high above. It contained all the nomological laws and great Tao, but it was formed by countless believers and ghostly immortals interweaving their faith with the divine kingdom. It followed the order of the great Tao 9 degrees and interweaved according to a mysterious method. This was the new heaven opened by the Tao of Peace, a heavenly realm. The yellow sky. The Tao of Peace used the Yellow Scarf Warriors as the source of power, and pioneered the use of believers and ghosts and gods as the basic units of magic power. The countless Yellow Scarf Warriors were united, using the endless potential and power of living beings to open up a world. Fan Wu Jie was moved. All living beings are united. This is the art of the Emperor of Heaven. Back then, the celestial emperor united all the living beings of the human race with one heart, raised the crimson flag, and defeated the high and mighty ancient gods, knocking them down from their divine altars. He even used the endless potential of all living beings to forge a new heaven. The Emperor Hong family united all living beings to open up great heaven, for the Hong Jun Emperor of Heaven. How dare you? Fan Wu Jie shouted, the heavens are dead. The yellow sky shall rise. They see the 9 heavens created by the Emperor of Heaven as the old heavens, and want to overthrow the rule of the Emperor of Heaven, establish a new heaven, and establish the so-called yellow sky rule of the Tao of Peace. But the Emperor of Heaven's living beings are united, the unwillingness of the human race to perish, the roar of the future and hope, the blood and tears shed by the ancestors of the human race for the sake of the human race's strength, the world that the human race wants to create together. And while the Tao of Peace recognized the endless potential of living beings, it only used the art of foolishness to control them. The Emperor of Heaven's living beings are dragons, and everyone is a dragon, and everyone is a god, which is why they have endless power, while the Tao of Peace uses faith and faith to control them are fools, worshipping you as a god. How can a god worshipped by a bunch of fools have the power to change heaven and earth when compared to the gods of all living beings? It is too early for your yellow sky to replace the heavens. If the power of faith comes from ignorance, then it is not worth mentioning, because the potential of all living beings lies in their wisdom. Fan Wujie laughed. If the heavens did not give birth to teacher, the ages would be like a long night. Stars enter the Milky Way, saints emerge. The cosmic light true water transformed into the Milky Way, and countless Fan Wujie attacked from different time and space, simulating the different phenomena he had experienced in the prehistoric wastelands. No matter what the Emperor of Heaven's original intentions were, he did create an era where everyone could pursue their dreams and hope, for the sake of the human race and all living beings. The Emperor of Heaven rules the world, and establishes the laws of virtue. Meritorious service with heaven and earth is called virtue. Teaching all living beings, unlocking their endless wisdom, is called morality. Leading all living beings forward, establishing order, and making all living beings united, is called holy virtue. Succeeding generations, inheriting the virtues of their ancestors, is called en virtue. Following the general trend of the human heart, cultivating one's character, caring for oneself, and helping the world, is called good fortune. These 5 virtues are the laws of the Emperor of Heaven to rule the world. To be able to break your yellow heaven evil art. All living beings united, great Tao of holy virtue. Fan Wujie condensed a sliver of the light of holy virtue, and the cosmic light true water turned into a clear light, turning into a river of stars that fell among the yellow-turbaned strongmen, immediately destroying the order established by the 9 spheres of the great Tao. The white light of holy virtue and the green light of moral virtue rippled out, and the yellow scarf on the heads of the yellow-turbaned strongmen fell off. The demons and barbarians washed away their evil auras, and the countless passages of moral virtue boosted their wisdom, dissolving the strict divine order of the 9 spheres of the great Tao. There was no hierarchy, and it interrupted the flow of faith and wish power of the believers to the ancestral spirits and ghosts, and then from the lower-level ghosts and gods to the higher level, and finally to Zhang Liang's body. The wish power of the yellow-turbaned strongmen worked on their bodies, opening their wisdom and increasing their power. The divine order created by the 9 spheres of the great Tao was shaken. Fan Wujie did not use the divine arts that he was good at, but used the merit law created by the Emperor of Heaven during the primitive era, to break the law of virtue that the way of peace stole from the Emperor of Heaven. All beings are one heart, and forcibly created the great art of yellow sky. It was because the law of the way of peace was stolen from the Emperor of Heaven, but the idea and the law were too shallow. So once it met the real master, it immediately collapsed. The most real thing in this world was the law, and when the fake law met the real law that was honed, it was like a stick meeting a real god. It collapsed at the first touch, and could not withstand a single blow. After the light of the holy virtue and the clear light of virtue dissolved the 9 spheres of the great Tao, Fan Wu Jie exerted his power in countless time and space at the same time, and killed one of Zhang Liang's real bodies in the time and space of his old age. Zhang Liang's existence immediately shrunk by 1/3, and the essence of his life was suddenly shortened by 1/3. Although the people outside the White Jade stage could not see the situation of Fan Wu Jie establishing the inner world, but the light and shadow that was revealed was enough to explain some things. Zhang Liang's breath suddenly weakened, and it even revealed an aura of life decline, and the weather outside immediately changed. That Captain Qin of the Milky Way Navy turned and asked the god with unparalleled divine eyes beside him, "Why did Zhang Liang's life suddenly weaken?" The god looked seriously for a long time, and then answered, "Zhang Liang's future body was killed, and he lost 1/3 of his lifespan." For the first time, Zhang Jiao's expression showed an obvious change, but he still did not lose his composure. Yuan Yu, who was below the stage, saw this, and he had a guess in his heart. Zhang Jiao really prepared a trump card for Zhang Liang. I don't know. In the next moment, the small world that was established as the inner world suddenly shattered, and a majestic power descended, instantly sweeping across the White Jade stage. The White Jade stage that the celestial heavens used to welcome the banquet of immortals, the treasure of creation, suddenly sank dozens of feet, and an ancient and heavy aura leaked out. The entire White Jade stage, which had not moved for a long time after being bombarded by Zhang Liang and Fan Wu Jie, began to tremble at this moment. It was unknown how many immortals fell from their mounts, and countless prehistoric mutants trembled, and in an instant, they could not even stand up. Innate spiritual treasure. Yuan Yu stood up abruptly. Xue Tu King's expression also changed, and he said, "It's actually an innate spiritual treasure." Ajati's face turned pale, and he said, "The mystic door is indeed rich and overbearing, giving a dog to an innate spiritual treasure to use?" Prince Mu was so shocked that he could not even hold the jade cup in his hand steadily, and the jade cup slipped to the ground. Prince Mu hurriedly caught it, and he screamed, "It's actually an innate spiritual treasure. Am I the prince, or is Zhang Liang the prince? Could it be that the person behind Zhang Jiao is richer than the celestial heavens emperor? I don't even know if my father has an innate spiritual treasure in his hands." The woman in white was conversing with little Qing, and the aura of the innate spiritual treasure leaked out. She opened her mouth, but she forgot what to say next. Old Man Mental Demon stood in the crowd and watched the commotion, and he excitedly explained to the people around him, "That is an expert from the future, and he attacked Zhang Liang. He must be some great god that the path of peace has offended in the future, and he has traveled through time and space to slap their faces." After the heavy aura that seemed to suppress even time and space leaked out, Old Man Mental Demon cried out like a slaughtered duck. His eyes were bloodshot, and for a moment, he wanted to attack immediately, kill Zhang Liang, and snatch the innate spiritual treasure peach. The reason why he did not act was not because Old Man Mental Demon had regained his rationality and self-control, but because he knew that the innate spiritual treasure was most likely lent to Zhang Liang by Zhang Jiao, and killing Zhang Liang would be of no use. In the time it took for a spark to fly off a flint, Zhang Liang had struck out with a 9-section staff. The great Tao of the innate spiritual treasure and the divine ability of the 9 degrees of great Tao combined, instantly shattering the realm created by Fan Wu Jie and sweeping away all the divine abilities and auras left behind by Fan Wu Jie, turning the tables. This innate spiritual treasure was a 9-section staff, and all 9 sections of it were engraved with runes and mystic runes. This 9-section staff was not unfamiliar to many people, for it was the staff of the Path of Peace's cult master, and it was also the tool used by the Path of Peace to preach. The Path of Peace organized its followers in a square, and the leader of the square was the Chu commander, and the master held the 9-section staff as the symbol of the talisman. Volume 42 of the Scripture of Peace said, "To rule the will of the heaven, to harmonize the 9 Qis, and to unite the hearts of the 9 people, thus bringing peace to the great emperor." The so-called 9 people were the gods of formless Qi, whose job was to manage vital Qi. The great god's job was to manage the heavens. The enlightened being's job was to manage the earth. The celestial being's job was to manage the 4 seasons. The Taoist being's job was to manage the 5 elements. The saint being's job was to manage yin and yang. The wise being's job was to manage the books and writings. The commoner's job was to manage the 5 plants and grains. The servant's job was to manage the finances and goods. The 9-section staff was a treasure of divine authority, and in Zhang Jiao's hands, it helped him travel in all directions, and it had also been used in the founding of the Path of Peace, but no one knew that it was an innate spiritual treasure. On the white jade platform, Prince Bo Jun's expression changed. The Path of Peace claimed that the great Tao had 9 degrees, and there were 9 people who governed the world. Those who did one thing each had 9 heads, and 9 by 9 had 81 heads. When used in secret, they formed one big root, and gods were the envoys. The upper 3 by 9 by 27 could save the world. The middle 3 by 9 by 27 could make the true God officials, and the lower 3 by 27 had many Taos. The 9-section staff could summon gods and impeach ghosts, and the holder of the staff could manage the affairs of the 9 people and the 9 Qis, control all things in the world, and save people to achieve the Tao. Everyone had thought that it was just an artifact that symbolized divine authority in the Path of Peace, but now it seemed that it was the incarnation of the great Tao. Such a divine authority artifact must have been made by the ancient celestial emperor who ruled the untainted land. Because the celestial court after the ancient gods was established by the Emperor of Heaven, even Prince Bo Jun didn't know that there was such a divine authority artifact. It must have been transformed by an ancient god, but no one knew which generation of celestial court it belonged to. The Shui Tu king murmured, "The mystic door is indeed rich. Isn't this the 9-section staff transformed by the Middle Emperor when the heavenly king Yuanshi ruled the world? No wonder they wanted to establish the mystic door celestial court." It turns out that when the great heavenly Lord Yuanshi was the ancient god Emperor of Heaven, his former subordinates supported him from behind. Under the heavenly king Yuanshi there are 10 great emperors: Dong Wang Kung, Dong Hua, Ling Hai, Gong Yuan, Dong Jing, Qing Du, Qing Ling, Zhong Huang, and Jade Emperor. Dong Wang Kung, and the 9 primeval emperors. Dong Hua is also the emperor of the celestial court, a subject of the Emperor of Heaven. I wonder if Emperor Dong Hua is involved in this. If Emperor Dong Hua is also involved in this conspiracy, then the heavenly court is really in danger. Yuan Yu's expression was ugly. The heavenly king Yuanshi has transformed into the great heavenly lord Yuanshi. The great heavenly lord of the mystic door is not the emperor of heaven of their ancient gods. The 3 pure ones are one, and the 3 teachers created the mystic door. How can they allow the ancient gods to use the mystic door to restore the world again? The mystic door is a noble immortal, but a lesser god. Are we going to repeat the battle between the immortals and gods of the mystic door? Yuan Yu thought of the words that Zhao Gongming had revealed. He clenched his fists and murmured, "Jade Emperor!" Chapter 1300. The 9-section scepter was raised high, and it had already broken through the illusory world. It came crashing down, and everything returned to chaos. The white jade platform trembled, and Fan Wujie's true bodies in different time and space were destroyed at the same time. His past and future were both locked down by the connate spiritual treasure. With a strike of the scepter, the entire timeline was wiped out, and even the void was turned into chaos. Fan Wujie's remaining true body roared and took out the golden shard. As the past and future were destroyed and the power of time and space rushed towards him, he created a golden bridge that crossed the void. The killing power of the primordial spiritual treasure was far beyond Fan Wujie's expectations. Back then, when Fa Jing held the primordial spiritual treasure, the purple gold alms bowl, it did not seem to be this terrifying. Fan Wujie did not cross the threshold of Dara. If he was like Yuan Yu, who walked through the chaos, or Xue Tu or Wu Xing, who came from a sect with a long history, he would know why Fa Jing was forced to run away with the purple gold alms bowl. It was because the purple gold alms bowl was Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva's spiritual treasure. Even though Fa Jing had the Bodhisattva's decree, he could not use even 1/10,000th of its power. He was not like Zhang Liang, who was instructed by Zhang Jiao to attack with all his strength. The 9 degrees of the Great Tao was also the supreme power of the 9-section staff, which represented the divine authority and order. Therefore, Fan Wujie was forced to use the chaotic treasure, the shard of the Yuanyu Golden Bridge. Fan Wujie stood on the Golden Bridge. His past and future bodies were destroyed by the primordial spiritual treasure, and he could only live in this moment. His current body should have been crushed by the past and future. With the past body destroyed and the future body destroyed, he would naturally die. His future body died, and as time passed, he would die in the next moment. But now the Yuanyu Golden Bridge crossed the time and space, stopping Fan Wujie in this moment. The past and future tides of time and space, the terrifying attacks that destroyed the true bodies in different time and space, could not touch Fan Wujie, who was standing on the Yuanyu Golden Bridge. He looked at the tides of chaos below the Golden Bridge with lingering fear. The void collapsed and the great Tao no longer existed. Under the attack of the primordial spiritual treasure, time and space and grievances were all destroyed. If Fan Wujie fell off the Golden Bridge, he would have to face the impact of his death in different time and space. The white jade platform that carried the primal chaos let out a groan as if it couldn't bear the burden. The blessings of the deities and the restrictions set up by the heavenly court to test the work of the deities were all destroyed. Every single layer of the countless golden barriers was as thick and heavy as an impassable iron wall. Even though the barbarian and dire monster armies had attacked with all their might, and countless Tao Lords were battling on the dais, and countless divine abilities and spells were all blasted against the barriers, they were unable to shake them at all. But now they were shattered like thin paper. Chaos slammed against the Golden Bridge. Even though the Golden Bridge did not budge, it was still just an illusion. The aura of the Golden Bridge was still stable, but the illusion of the Golden Bridge that Fan Wujie had manifested could not last that long. After all, it was just a fragment of a treasure left behind by a chaos fiend god. Below the stage, Yuan Yu glared fiercely at the Xue Tu king and said faintly, "This Yuan Yu Golden Bridge is indeed undefeatable. Even if it's a connate numinous treasure, it's still stable even when facing the impact of the 9-section scepter. It's a pity that Fanbrat only has one fragment, and the numinous treasure aura it contains isn't enough. I'm afraid he won't be able to last long. If someone's heavenly demonic blood god blade went up, I'm afraid it would be broken with just one strike from the scepter." The Xue Tu king did not argue with him. It was only when he was slashing people that he realized the power of his heavenly demonic blood god blade. The blood-dissipating saber's sharpness was unparalleled, and its quality was superior. Moreover, it had its own sinister restrictive spell. It was not meant to be used for protection, but for killing. As a divine saber, it was more solid than the Golden Bridge. Ajati said proudly, "What 9-section scepter? What purple gold alms bowl? How can they be compared to the Yuantu sword that the demon ancestor carries with him? If my sect's ultimate treasure, the Yuantu sword, was here, I could easily take down Zhang Liang. Even if Zhang Jiao came, he would only be a dead soul under my blade." The Xue Tu king and Yuan Yu ignored him. Both of their treasures were the weapons they carried with them, but the treasure that this person took out was the great ancestor of his sect. Don't be fooled by Ajati's claim that he was invincible with the Yuan-Tu sword, that Zhang Jiao and the innate spiritual treasures were nothing to him, and that Dara would even dare to fight. In reality, he was not wrong, but if Ajati were to kneel and ask for the Yuan-Tu sword, would this great ancestor make a move for him? The three of them were not worried about Fan Wujie, because if it was not for the protection of the UNU Golden Bridge, Fan Wujie might really be turned into ashes when he was caught off guard by the innate spiritual treasure's scepter. But now that Fan Wujie had survived the initial danger, even though the UNU Golden Bridge was on the verge of collapse, with this buffer, Fan Wujie naturally had a way to deal with it. After all, the one holding the innate spiritual treasure was not Zhang Jiao, but Zhang Liang, who was far weaker than Fan Wujie. Sure enough, just as the shadow of the UNU Golden Bridge became more and more illusory from the impact of the chaos, and at the moment when it was about to shatter, Fan Wujie suddenly stepped out of the Golden Bridge. Then, the shadow of the UNU Golden Bridge shattered, and a golden fragment was also shattered. Fan Wujie fell into the chaos, and the impact of the death of the countless true bodies of time and space came crashing down. Fan Wujie was immediately wiped out, and his whole body was wiped out, without a trace of his aura left. Zhang Liang held the scepter with great difficulty, not daring to relax. Of course, it was because Fan Wujie's previous actions were too inexplicable, but also because the 9 degrees Great Tao Mystique and the wishes of the ancestral spirits and ghosts were all sucked dry by the innate spiritual treasure. Now, most of the Yellow Turban warriors and the ghosts and deities controlled by the 9 degrees Great Tao Mystique were exhausted. If the scepter struck again, it would probably suck out the source of these ghosts and deities. Even if Zhang Liang was exhausted to the point of vomiting blood, he would only be able to wield the strength of 3 strikes of the 9-section staff. Even if each strike had the power to shake the heavens and the earth, after 3 strikes, Zhang Liang would probably not be able to lift this connate numinous treasure. And his brother, Zhang Jiao, without the 9 degrees Great Tao Mystique, with his own magical power, he could only strike 5 times. Below the white jade platform, watching Fan Wujie fall into the chaos and turn into ashes, the crowd sighed in sympathy. The lady in white turned her head away, unable to look at it, and little Qing's eyes were filled with tears. Old man XNMO sighed and said, "What a pity, what a pity!" A future strong cultivator, with such a heaven-defying technique, was helpless against the power of this strike. The captain of the Milky Way Navy put down his wine cup and shook his head. "That golden bridge looks familiar, it seems to be the relic of a chaos fiend god." The god with a pair of godly eyes sighed and said, "Even though this future strong cultivator used the fragment of the chaos fiend god's relic and borrowed a shred of Dara's aura to escape this calamity, without the second fragment, it is only a matter of time before he falls." Crown Prince Bo-jun smiled and said, "How can there be no difference? After dodging this strike, he can easily admit defeat. I am not an unreasonable villain who wants to force someone to his death. Would I not allow him to step down from the platform? Even though this person has fallen, everyone has seen his abilities, and he is a good talent. Even if I promote him, what does it matter?" Crown Prince Mu seemed to be a little dumbfounded. He grabbed the corner of his robe nervously, and his face was a little pale. "Brother Wu Jie lost. It is not the fault of the battle. How could I know that Zhang Jiao has such a terrifying trump card? But in the primitive universe, there are only a few innate spiritual treasures. This time, we can force out the person behind Zhang Jiao, and it will be a great help to my father. It is still unknown who will win this battle. I just hope that Brother Wu Jie is fine." Amidst the chaos, countless immortal lights suddenly shone brightly, and the energy that was shattered by the innate spiritual treasure, the 9-section staff, turned into a chaotic state. At this time, an embryo emerged from the chaos. It was a strange flesh egg, red like fire, and as soon as it appeared, it swallowed the chaotic energy and expanded rapidly. Then, a strange beast with no mouth and no face came out of it. Someone below the platform exclaimed, "Chaos!" It was one of the 4 ancient fierce beasts, the Chaos Beast. As soon as it was born, it swallowed the chaotic energy, and its body grew rapidly. Zhang Liang's face turned red, and he couldn't even lift the 9-section staff. He could only watch as the Chaos Beast grew to a height of 1,000,000 zhang. Suddenly, the Chaos Beast flipped over, and Fan Wujie came out of it. He was covered in the skin of chaos, and his body shrunk. Yuan Yu smiled and nodded. Reincarnation, grand divine power. Xue Tu happily patted Crown Prince Mu's shoulder and said, "I told you that Fan Wujie could live another life. Even if his past and future are dead, he can be reborn." Now that he is a Chaos Beast, he has finally comprehended the principles of reincarnation contained in the 9 questions of the Netherworld. Ajati exclaimed, "Reincarnation is not a forbidden divine power, and it only involves the laws of reincarnation, but there is still the shadow of the 9 questions of the Netherworld. If Wu Jie is one step closer to this divine power, he might be able to pry into one of its secrets. I don't know if it's good or bad for him to be involved in the great secret of reincarnation." Yuan Yu sighed, but there was still a lot of trouble under his butt. In the end, Fan Wujie wasn't as deeply involved in the great secret of reincarnation as the Tao Lord of Corpse Demon. He didn't have to face a great calamity in the future, but he had to be careful when it came to matters of the Netherworld. Fan Wujie had used the cycle of reincarnation to avoid the calamities and destructive forces that came from the past and the future. The mighty beings on the White Jade platform were not surprised. Commandant Qin and the True God with his amazing eyesight had long seen this. Although Prince Bo-jun was a little surprised, he knew that Fan Wujie could no longer fight on. He was just waiting for Fan Wujie to raise his hand and admit defeat. Zhang Liang couldn't raise his 9-section staff a few times, and missed the opportunity to kill Fan Wujie. So, he gave up. He looked at Fan Wujie and said in a low voice, "Sir, it looks like this battle is over. In the end, the divine powers of the Tao of Peace are superior. I am ashamed that my cultivation is not good enough, and it is only because of the sex resources that I am slightly better than you." After saying this, whether it was him, Zhang Jiao, or Bo-jun, they all let out a long sigh in their hearts. Fan Wujie lowered his eyes and sighed. The Tao of Peace is indeed extraordinary, as expected of the future. If I had a choice, I would also like to raise my hand and admit defeat. Unfortunately, whether it is me or you, we have no choice. Zhang Liang's expression changed. Prince Bo-jun pressed his hand on the table, and Zhang Jiao snorted. "Reckless." Fan Wujie said in a clear voice, "I have a sword, and I invite you to examine it. Under this sword, Reckless is called Absolute Slaughter." His voice seemed to have a magical power, carrying with it the absolute determination of the Tao of Sword. Fan Wujie sighed in his heart. In the end, it is an unfair victory. Fan Wujie's gaze was focused on the tip of his finger. To everyone else, there was clearly nothing on the tip of his finger, but in the reflection of Fan Wujie's eyes, there was a sword that could destroy the sun and the moon, slash apart the universe, unstoppable in the front, unstoppable in the back. It was an extremely sharp and indescribable killing sword. The white sword light that was reflected from his eyes seemed to contain an immeasurable killing intent, shaking one's nascent divinity and piercing through the void. It was dangerous and terrifying, causing everyone around, including the princes, immortal lords, Taoist lords, golden immortals, and even the primordial immortals, to feel their minds go blank. They actually dared not look Fan Wujie in the eyes at this moment. Zhang Liang was even more overwhelmed by the killing intent, forgetting everything, even his anger at Fan Wujie's reckless provocation just now. It was as if a bucket of ice water had been poured on his head during the hottest days of the year, chilling him to the bone. Slaughtering sword chi. None of the Almighties present were ignorant or ill-informed. Old Man Inner Demon was even more horrified. "Who brought out our Yuantu sword chi?" But there were even more people who were trembling. Even those high and mighty figures couldn't help but scream. Some people were so scared that their minds were about to collapse. Zhang Jiao's eyes were wide open, and Crown Prince Bo Jun couldn't help but flip over his table and stand up. Colonel Qin's mouth was agape, and the eyes of that god with superb eyesight even bulged out. Countless immortals and hundreds of millions of cultivators here were trembling to the bone. 4 immortal slaying swords. Demon King Jiao seemed to have a spacetime disorder. He looked around and confirmed that he was at the so-called sky-bearing grand meeting in a remote village in the primordial world. He was not in the battlefield of the primordial world after the great Magi-Demon War or some primordial world calamity. However, why did the connate numinous treasure and even the immortal vanquishing sword Qi appear? It had to be said that Shemali and Ajadi's imitation skills were really superb. Other than the people of the demon sect, no one else could recognize the essence of the double-kill sword of Yuan-Tu and Avicii under the fairy-slaying sword Qi. Facing the fairy-slaying sword Qi, Zhang Liang desperately used the 9 degrees of the Great Tao to squeeze the origin of the ghosts and gods, and forcibly raised the 9 sects staff for the second time. But in the face of the 9 tribulations staff that was coming at him once again, Fan Wu Jie merely slashed it with a cold and ruthless killing sword intent. Facing the great way of the Grand Luo of Grand Luo, that soundless killing sword light with restrained killing intent sealed off all the changes of the 9-section staff. At this moment, Fan Wu Jie suddenly sensed a familiar spiritual light. He could not help but unleash the second sword light according to the mystical principles of the ruins of returning, according to the great Tao of the ruins of returning. Unbeknownst to him, the 2 sword energies had condensed into green lotus flowers. They were fresh and refined, glistening and green, but they were also unusually terrifying. Fan Wu Jie only saw 1 Lianhua fall on the 9-sex staff, and in an instant, the divine order constructed by the 9 degrees of the Great Tao was destroyed. Because all of the ghosts and deities, the yellow-scarved strongmen, the ancestral spirits, and even the projections of the earthly deities were destroyed by a single sword beam. All of them were killed. The deities who had their projections destroyed and were greatly injured, the true deities who were awe-inspiring and authoritative in the heaven court shut their mouths and pretended not to see anything. That sword light seemed to be the ultimate answer to all the contradictions, causes, problems, and entanglements. It was the answer to all the principles of the world. What divine power, what order, what great Tao, what principle, in front of it, there was only one ultimate solution, and that was to kill. No matter how many spells you have, 10,000 magical powers, I come and go with only one sword, and I will kill everything. Zhang Liang only saw a sword light coming, and then his vision went black, and he had no more thoughts. Zhang Jiao also watched his brother's head fall to the ground, and the 9-sex staff fall into the dust, and the anger in his heart rose to an unimaginable level. But he stood up and faced that sword light, and his anger was extinguished by the cold killing intent in the blink of an eye. He could only let out a muffled grunt and sat down again. Seeing Zhang Jiao get angry and then sit down in the blink of an eye, the others felt like laughing, but facing the incomparably fierce sword light on the white jade platform, overflowing with killing intent, they could not laugh. On the white jade platform, all the powerful practitioners, no matter who they were, sat upright and still obediently. They put away their original postures, and all of them were like obedient children. Only then did the sword will that had locked onto the crowd relax slightly. Then, as Fan Wu Jie put away his sword Qi, it disappeared. Everyone present felt that the sword will above their heads had disappeared, and they all heaved a sigh of relief. Half shocked, half glad, they cried out involuntarily, "Why did it have to be like this?" Fan Wu Jie came to his senses, and looked at the silence on and off the platform. Even though he had accidentally killed Zhang Liang, no one seemed to be holding him accountable. All the great practitioners were like the most obedient dogs, and even Xuetu, Wu Xing, and Yuan Yu, who had always been a little arrogant in the past, were as docile as old dogs without temper. He was a little confused, and his face showed a blank expression. What just happened? Did I go to the wrong timeline? Chapter 1301. Below the stage, someone stole a glance at Fan Wujie and whispered, "Senior, what's wrong with these people? That expert from the future killed someone right in front of the Heaven Court's inspector. Why did Sect Master Zhang Jiao of the Road of Peace just watch his brother being beheaded in front of him without making a sound?" Shh. The blood-soaked demon monarch lowered his head like an obedient old dog. He said in a low voice, "Why would Zhang Jiao dare to make a sound? Isn't he afraid that the four swords will kill him as well? Didn't you see that green lotus?" Ajati was also surprised. Is the imitation of the four immortal execution swords so powerful? Although it has some of the power of the Yuan-Tu sword, the 9-section staff is also an innate spiritual treasure. How could it not protect Zhang Liang? Yuan Yu shook his head and said, "The green lotus formed by the killing sword aura already has a trace of the essence of the immortal execution sword formation. It's not that the power of the immortal slaying sword chi is beyond your expectations. It's just that the power of the immortal slaying sword formation is more than 1,000 times stronger. Even if the 9-sectioned cane is a primordial spiritual treasure, does it dare to shake the shadow of the immortal slaying sword formation? The sword Aura Lotus reminds me of the time when Sect Master Tongtian set up the immortal execution sword formation. The 4 Lianhua fell from the 4 swords and resisted the power of the 4 great experts all by himself. We all know where the immortal execution sword formation came from, but how could he set up the immortal execution sword formation with it? Do you dare to say that you don't have any doubts now?" Ajati sighed. "It's not just doubts, I'm dying of anxiety." A great expert who could use Fan Wujie's hand to trigger the shadow of the immortal execution sword formation, or the ancestor of the lifeless cult, who was instructed by the demon ancestor of the river Styx, borrowed the skin of the 4 immortal execution swords to show the true killing power of the Yuan-Tu sword. The Yuan-Tu sword is an innate spiritual treasure of the great Tao of slaughter, so it's reasonable that it could imitate the essence of the immortal execution sword formation. Either that, or one of the 2 previous masters of the immortal slaying sword formation is interfering. Demon ancestor of destruction or the Grandmaster of Heaven? Yuan Yu asked doubtfully. The Xuetu king had already returned to the emerald flying ship. He shook his head and said, "Tongtian Order Master, or should I say, Lingbao Great Heavenly Lord." Ajati sighed and said, "It's most likely the Destroyer Demon Ancestor. We let Fan Wujie go to the end of time to Zero. As for what happened, we don't know. If the Destroyer Demon Ancestor took this opportunity to set up some hidden tricks on Fan Wujie, it wouldn't be strange. He only needed to let Fan Wujie see a little bit of the immortal slaying sword formation's charm, and at the crucial moment, he could activate it and create such an effect. It's most likely Road Demon Ancestor's backup. After all, Fan Wujie has never had anything to do with the Jiesec's sect master." Yuan Yu said slowly, "We know that Fan Wujie went to see Road Demon Ancestor, but the others don't know. To them, the current Road Demon Ancestor is just a person who has just been sealed in the ultimate, a loser in the internal struggle of the demonic Tao. The possibility of him standing behind Fan Wujie is very low." "You mean, they suspect that Fan Wujie has the support of the Grandmaster of Heaven?" The Xuetu king's eyes lit up. "We don't even know the truth, so how would we dare to say anything? Perhaps, behind Fan Wujie, the sect master of the Jie sect is making his move?" Yuan Yu said in a deep tone, "I can only say that they probably think Tongtian is one of the 3 venerables of the Mystic Door. What does he think about the Mystic Door interfering in the affairs of the Heavenly Court? They don't know for sure either." Zhang Jiao sat on the white jade platform with a livid face. His face alternated between green and red, as if he had overturned a paint shop. Prince Bo-jun also sat on the main seat with an ugly expression. Most importantly, it was very difficult to deal with Fan Wujia. Old Man Mental Demon's face was solemn. He secretly transmitted his voice to Demon King Jiao. "I can't do business with you anymore." Demon King Jiao said coldly, "Demon Heart, you have already promised us. Are you going to go back on your word?" Old Man Mental Demon transmitted his voice to Demon King Jiao. That expert came from the future and stopped Zhang Liang and the others from succeeding. Now that Zhang Liang is dead, the path of peace and Celestial Emperor Zi Yang's faction have been obstructed. The waters are too deep. Especially that green Lianhua, it made me shudder. Can that matter be done at another time? Demon King Jiao thought for a while, then shook his head and said, "Prince Mu has been living in seclusion in the celestial heavens. His father, Celestial Emperor Donghua, is deeply trusted by the High Sun family. When the Duke of the East was around, he could already fight against him. Prince Mu is the youngest son of Lord Qingtong, and Lord Qingtong calls him Shepherd Boy. It wasn't easy for us to lure him out. I have to say that Emperor Zhuanqu's methods are superb. Ever since the celestial heavens pardoned the original sin of the demon race, many of the demon race were bewitched by him. They wholeheartedly threw themselves into the arms of the celestial heavens and followed the merit laws. There were even many who were glorified as God. Zhuanqu tried in vain to dilute the difference between humans and demons, reversing the tradition of suppressing the demon race during the Celestial Emperor's era. He kept saying that the Celestial Emperor treated the demon race poorly and treated the human race poorly, and that he only loved them. He is very bewitching. If this continues, the recognition that the demon race has gathered since the Tai-E Divine Emperor will be dissolved by him. But the difference between humans and demons is greater than the sky and deeper than the sea. How can we let him have his way? That Baisuzhen is a demon that I carefully selected who admires the celestial heavens. Her merit has already reached the critical point of transcending and becoming a god. You, Old Man Mental Demon, are famous. You used the Tao of mental demons to confuse Prince Mu's mind and make him forcibly take Baisuzhen. You made him, the son of Celestial Emperor Donghua, destroy the heavenly law that separates heaven and man. This is the first reason. The second reason is that I will secretly help the two little demons and make them kill Prince Mu while resisting. Celestial Emperor Zi Yang in the celestial heavens has a tacit understanding with us. After Prince Mu dies, Prince Bo-jun will slaughter the demon tribes that dare to submit to the celestial heavens in the name of finding the murderer of Prince Mu. We, the demon gods who cultivate merit laws in the celestial heavens, will also cause trouble and incite the emotions of the demons who cultivate merit laws in the celestial heavens. After that, it will be the matter of us, the 7 sages. This plan is the key to us, the 7 sages, setting off the next upsurge of the demon race's rebellion. Firstly, it is to attack the reputation of Emperor Zhuanqu's right-hand man, Celestial Emperor Donghua, and attack the trend of humans and demons merging, causing the demon race to split again. Secondly, it is to attack the merit laws of the celestial heavens. The Emperor of Heaven established merit and not his heart. It was not easy for Celestial Emperor Zi Yang to find a way to promote immortals and gods without going through merit laws. This time, many powerful figures of the demon race pretended to cultivate merit and sneaked into the celestial heavens. We must ruin the merit laws. So, the drama of Baisuzhen assassinating the prince and being pursued by the celestial heavens will be played by us and Celestial Emperor Zi Yang. When Emperor Zhuanqu suppresses the demon race, Celestial Emperor Zi Yang massacred the innocent. When Emperor Zhuanqu pacifies the situation, Celestial Emperor Zi Yang completely surrenders and worships the demon race, provoking the anger of the human race. With us working together, Zhuanqu will not be able to bridge the rift between humans and demons. The rift will only get bigger and bigger. Bai Suzhen cultivates under the goddess of Mount Li and has countless friends. Most of them are demon immortals who have accumulated merit. The celestial heavens will pursue her accomplices and magnify the case. They will definitely be able to frame many of them. At that time, it will definitely arouse the anger of the peace faction of the demon race. We will raise our arms again. Previously, we did not do anything because we wanted to wait for the power of the demon race to recover from the weakening caused by the Emperor of Heaven's long period of attack. Now that the foundation of the demon race is strong, we must make the policy of broadening the demon race a bleeding wound in the celestial heavens. Emperor Zhuanxu wants to use us, and so does Celestial Emperor Ziyang. The discrimination against the demon race in the celestial heavens is deep-rooted. The differences between demon gods and human gods, demon immortals and human immortals are also becoming more and more obvious. The conflict between the races will never disappear. Old man mental demon, you are already too deeply involved. Don't you think it's a little too late to withdraw now? Demon King Jiao said coldly. Old man mental demon chuckled and said, What am I afraid of? We fiends have always been the ones who are the most capable of courting death. We never mind causing trouble. Since you have such ambitions, we fiends will naturally do our best to help you. In any case, we have never done anything good. Do you think I am afraid of being too deeply involved? Hee, the person who caused the vortex is the safest in the center of the vortex. However, that expert from the future has already disrupted the situation. Furthermore, he came from D. Zimu's side. If you say that those experts who are suspected to have come from the future met D. Zimu by accident, do you believe that yourself? Old man mental demon said. Demon King Jiao pondered for a long time and said, You are saying that they came from the future to stop this matter? No matter how meticulous the plot is, there will always be traces left behind after the matter. Furthermore, the demon race's plot is not tight. It is also possible for someone to discover something from the lower reaches of the timeline. Also, that green lotus. Old man mental demon said anxiously, Don't you feel uneasy? Demon King Jiao's expression did not change. The old master of Jie School will not interfere in the battle between humans and demons. The number of demons under him is far greater than the other two old masters. It is clear that he does not discriminate against us demons. But if you say that he favors you demons more. Old man mental demon sneered and said, Can you say that? Between the human race and the demon race, who does the three pure ones favor, there is no need to ask. The arrow is already knocked on the bowstring, it has to be released. Demon King Jiao said lightly. How can we care about so many schemes now? Those who call themselves ancestors all have skin to hide. Now is not the time for the Tai Divine Court and the Heavenly Court to fight for the heavenly mandate. Although our plot is a matter of life and death in our eyes, to them, it is just a trivial matter. Even if we obstruct the Tao of a great ancestor and get erased, we will accept our fate. Demon King Jiao, attack as usual. I will create an opportunity for you. Demon King Jiao looked at Fan Wujie on the stage with his hands behind his back and transmitted his voice. On the white jade stage, Crown Prince Bo Jun's expression was ugly, but now was not the time to care about such things. He was prepared to grit his teeth and bear with the matter regarding Zhang Liang. Just as he was about to speak, he saw Zhang Jiao stand up from the corner of his eye and swallowed the words back into his stomach. /book_15466/L. Chapter 1302. Zhang Jiao turned his head to face Fan Wujie. His face was as calm as a deep lake, without a single ripple. Previously, when he saw the sword Qi Lotus, he had already concealed his shocked expression. Now, even if it was Yuan Yu or Shui Tu, these old foxes, they would not be able to guess anything from his face. Zhang Jiao cupped his fists at Prince Bo Jun and said, Since it was a fair duel between two families, my brother was killed because he was not as strong as the other and he was too arrogant. his death was not to be regretted. Even if he was killed in a fair duel, the path of peace is not going to pursue the matter. Since this young master can defeat my brother, there should be a place in front of the white jade platform. Although my brother was defeated, the path of peace is not without people. Young master, please allow Zhang Jiao to take the rest of the duel in place of my dead brother to prove the great art of the path of peace. Before Fan Wujie could say anything, Prince Bo Jun stepped forward and stopped him. Cult Master Zhang, you are too serious. Previously, I only wanted the young talents of the two families to learn from each other and verify the great Tao. There was no intention to fight to the death. It is a pity that the two of you have ended up like this. Since the misfortune has already happened, how can we let the two families fight again? This is a fight between two young talents. How is it related to the reputation of the path of peace? Prince Bo Jun's gaze fell on Fan Wujie again, and he shook his head with a pained expression. Little brother, why did you kill him? This white jade platform is not a place to fight to the death. It is a place for the heaven to select the young talents of the world to compete and compete. Now that it has become a matter of life and death, isn't it going against the original intention of the heaven to select talents? How can the heaven use you with such a vicious attack? The heaven has always chosen talents with both virtue and talent. If we take you today, won't the white jade platform be littered with corpses in the future? There will never be a day of peace again, will there? Fan Wujie sighed and said, Your Highness is right. Brother Zhang Liang and I felt like old friends when we first met, and we appreciated each other. Because of a moment of anger, I could not hold back and accidentally killed Brother Zhang Liang. I deeply regret it. I can only sigh that Brother Zhang Liang fought with an innate spirit treasure, so I had to use a divine ability that I could not control. That sword will of mine is filled with killing intent. When the sword is drawn, it will definitely be stained with blood. I'm not afraid of everyone laughing at me. My temperament isn't strong enough to control this sword. Right now there's a faint killing intent in my heart. I'm afraid I'll lose control if I'm provoked. I can't control myself. The leftover sword energy in Fan Wujie's hand flashed across, startling all the almighty beings sitting in front of the white jade tower. Many of them were forced back instinctively by the sword energy, while some of them were even pushed away by it, flipping over the table with one hand and hiding behind it. Cups and plates fell to the ground, startling all the immortals under the white jade tower, and they craned their necks to have a look. Seeing that many people were staring at him, the rogue cultivator with a trace of the immemorial Golden Crow bloodline, Master Crow, blushed and repeatedly apologized before quietly slipping down from the white jade platform. Zhang Jiao waved his hand and took back the 9-section staff. Although your highness is advising with kind words, there are people who do not appreciate it. Since you can't suppress your killing intent, then let me kill your killing intent. Zhang Jiao's eyes widened and he raised the 9-section staff angrily. Fan Wujie was shouting madly in his heart, Shuetu, Wu Xing, I've done as you said, they've taken the bait. Bring Prince Mu up quickly. This plan is called building a ladder to heaven. Before Fan Wujie went up, Yuan Yu had secretly instructed him, now that we want to sneak into the heaven, we have to use young Master Mu who delivered himself to our door as a raft. After you go up, you must make Prince Bo Jun and Zhang Jiao fall out with you. If Zhang Jiao attacks you, we'll take it, then immediately bring Prince Mu out and use him to slap Prince Bo Jun in the face. We don't have the status to fight Prince Bo Jun. In front of the heaven, we're nothing. Do you see the Milky Way Navy? The captain in the lead was even scarier than Zhang Jiao. There were several people at their level in the Milky Way Navy's patrol fleet. That's why we have to use Prince Mu to fight, only then can we turn this into an internal power struggle in the heaven. That's why the Milky Way Navy will turn a blind eye. First, we want Imperial Prince Mu to step on Imperial Prince Bo Jun to ascend the throne. We'll help him build up his power and support him, allowing him to contend against Imperial Prince Bo Jun without being at a disadvantage. This is called building a ladder to heaven, lifting someone up. Then, we'll remove the ladder to heaven so that he can't get down, and can only fight Prince Bo Jun to the end. That way, he'll have to rely on us to help him build up his power. So, the first step is to send Prince Bo Jun up the ladder to heaven. We'll make use of your matter to let Prince Mu stand up for you and take on this matter, so that Prince Bo Jun will board our pirate ship. The second step is to remove the ladder to heaven. We'll send Prince Mu to slap Prince Bo Jun's face, so that both of them won't be able to back down. The power of the 9-section staff in Zhang Jiao's hands was completely different from when it was in Zhang Liang's hands. Zhang Jiao's expression was calm, and his mind was as firm as steel. Even though it might have been Tongtian sect leader's move, after a short moment of shock, his mind didn't waver. He made a move to test it out. He wanted to face the immortal slaying sword Qi in Fan Wujie's hands and see what it was like. The road of peace and Zhang Jiao had no way out. Boundless visions rose from the 9-segmented staff, and countless ghosts and deities materialized from the void. Fan Wujie had not only killed Zhang Liang with a single sword, but he had also destroyed the divine authority of the Tao of Peace. But Zhang Jiao had manifested countless ghosts and deities with his own cultivation base. The impurities in his body had turned into ghosts, and the qi of heaven and earth that he had influenced had turned into ocean gods. The heaven and earth that he was in had absorbed the spirits of the deities, and it was the great supernatural power of the unity of heaven and man, and the ghosts and deities had accompanied him. In his 5 viscera there was the 5 elements godly wheel. In each of his acupoints there was a god guarding them. His brain and spirit turned into a jade emperor, and his breath turned into 4 kinds of qi. It was like the beginning of chaos, and clear and turbid were separated. The turbid and yellow ones sank, and the pure and dark ones rose. Under the clear qi, his breath turned into wind and rain, and countless stars appeared. His 2 eyeballs turned into the sun and moon, and his dantian turned into a deep and unfathomable whirlpool. His spirits were reincarnated in it. Even the bottom of the valley turned into a huge abyss that swallowed everything. This was the true 9 degrees of the Great Way. Zhang Jiao couldn't prove the 9 degrees of the Great Way externally, and he couldn't build the heaven court and rule over the chaos. Therefore, he saw himself as Pangu, and used the human race to imitate the Pangu real body in his body to open up a world. He condensed the gods in his organs, and used the functions of his organs to condense the gods and imitate the 9 degrees of the Great Way to run the heaven and earth. He cultivated gods and devils, and used the 9 degrees of the Great Way to run the small heaven and earth in his body, and used his small heaven and earth to affect the big heaven and earth in the outside world. The endless divine light and the countless gods and devils were like illusions, flashing and disappearing. But Zhang Jiao's inner world, all the power in his body, and all the qi of vitality in the outside world were all added to the 9-section staff. This caused the 9-section staff to fall straight down. It looked ordinary, and it didn't have any magic like Zhang Liang's hand. But the more ordinary it was, the more Fan Wujie didn't dare to underestimate it. He was terrified. The 2 sword energies that Ajati gave him were mostly used up, and what was left were only some residual light shadows. They could be used to scare people, but to make him face Zhang Jiao's real attack. Fan Wujie wasn't that reckless. He took a step back, and Yuan Yu, who was under the white jade platform, took a step forward. He stepped on a golden bridge, crossed countless obstacles, and came between Fan Wujie and Zhang Jiao. He borrowed the wisp of qi that Ajati had summoned and manifested a sword shadow. The shadow of Yuantu's sword flashed in the void and slashed at the 9-section staff. In an instant, the countless ghosts and gods, the shadow of the huge world that was the convergence of countless god kingdoms, were all destroyed, and there was not the slightest strange phenomenon. Yuan Yu took on Zhang Jiao's attack with ease. Why does fellow Taoist Zhang Jiao have to bully a child? Why don't I spar with you? Yuan Yu said with a smile. Zhang Jiao withdrew the 9-section staff. His expression solemn. Below the platform, Xue Tu tugged on the sleeve of young Master Mu, who was watching in shock, reminding him that it was time to make an appearance. Only then did young Master Mu come back to his senses. He tidied up his appearance and assumed the posture of a father in his memories. He slowly used the golden bridge that Yuan Yu had erected to ascend the platform. Before he even appeared, his laughter rang out first. Ha ha ha! Brother Bo Jun, what you said earlier was wrong. Chapter 1303. Who are you? An old man beside Prince Bo Jun suddenly jumped out, pointed at Prince Mu's nose, and said, Who are you to speak in front of the prince? As soon as he jumped out, he felt that something was wrong. Wait, isn't that Prince Mu? Why did I come out? Why am I so aggressive, pointing at Prince Mu's nose? Do you really think that Emperor Dong Hua can't kill me? As soon as this thought came to his mind, it was twisted by an invisible demonic thought. Who is Emperor Dong Hua? I'm relying on Imperial Monarch Ziyang, and I have the support of Prince Bo Jun. Now that Prince Mu is coming at me with such ferocious momentum, if I don't fight for Prince Bo Jun, how will I still have any status in front of the prince in the future? Behind him, Prince Bo Jun looked at him with approval, which made him even more excited. Among the crowd, old man Xian Mo quietly hid. Prince Zi Mu's temperament was excellent. Not only did Fan Wujie's provocation not infuriate him, it actually calmed him down. Just as he was about to explain why he stood out and help Fan Wujie, he saw the blood-soaked demon lord suddenly step forward like a lackey. His eyes were cold as he said, Presumptuous! My young master is of such a high status. How dare an old servant offend him? Kneel before the prince. The master of the lifeless sect reached out a huge hand that was glowing with black light. It passed through the white jade pavilion and pressed down on the old man who had just spoken. A trace of anger flashed across Imperial Prince Bo Jun's face. However, he was extremely shrewd and wanted Imperial Prince Mu to display his infamy in front of all the people of the bright, rugged region. Thus, he signaled his subordinates not to interfere. When Imperial Prince Mu appeared, Commandant Qin of the Milky Way Navy stroked his long beard with a calm expression. However, seeing the arrogant tone of the lifeless cult master and the blood-soaked demon monarch, he forcefully pulled off a strand of his beard. He stared dumbfoundedly at Prince Mu, who had his head lowered and had a bashful look on his face. He was inexplicably shocked. Was this the same shy and introverted Prince Mu that he knew? Emperor Dong Hua's family was extremely strict and had always attached great importance to his reputation in the eyes of the general public in the untainted land. He did not allow his son to make friends with bandits and bully others with his identity as a prince. Therefore, Imperial Prince Mu had never had a group of lackeys supporting him to act like a tyrant. On the contrary, his father's subordinates always asked him to uphold the reputation of Dong Hua Imperial Emperor. The few times he went out with the identity of a prince, he was always low-key and polite. When had he ever been so arrogant and domineering? Now, the Xue Tu king was acting so arrogantly, and Ajati was acting so domineeringly, not even giving face to Crown Prince Bo Jun. In front of countless immortal cultivators, he was acting so arrogant and domineering. Imperial Prince Mu also felt that it was inappropriate. He thought, although Brother Butcher and Brother Shanxing have good intentions, it is still hard to avoid the simple and crude style of itinerant cultivators. It is too crude and rude. I still need to be enlightened by the heaven. When I go back, I will definitely have a good talk with them, telling them to treat others peacefully. How can they be so arrogant and overbearing? However, there was an inexplicable excitement in his heart, a feeling that he was ready to make a move. Now, in front of Crown Prince Bo Jun, I can't let these two brothers lose face. I will save this for later. For now, I have to think about the bigger picture. Crown Prince Bo-jun is ambitious, and he actually wants to collude with the mystic door. This cannot be allowed to continue. To make him realize his mistake, it is inevitable that it will be a little more intense. I believe Father will understand me. The old man was already panicking, and he was ready to bow his head and admit defeat. However, the strange demonic thoughts moved again, and his heart suddenly burned with passion. He knelt down involuntarily, bearing the powerful pressure exerted by the dark hand. The great humiliation made him instantly furious, and he attacked recklessly. Old Man Xin secretly activated his demonic thoughts, making the old man want to kill. Demon King Jiao said coldly, "Yes. If we let Crown Prince Bo-jun's subordinates kill Crown Prince Mu, the effect might be better. This way, the two forces of the heaven will definitely fall out with each other." Originally, there was no such plan because Crown Prince Bo-jun has always been cautious and will not easily clash with Crown Prince Mu. Crown Prince Mu has always been low-key, so it is difficult to create conflict. But I don't know what went wrong, but these two actually fought each other. How can we let go of this opportunity? The old man's white hair fluttered in the wind, and he said angrily, "Who do you think you are? I don't care who you are. You are just a servant, and you dare to attack me, and you want me to kneel? You are courting death." He clenched his hands, and two streams of air, one black and one white, came out of his nostrils. The black stream of air turned into a murderous aura, exuding an aura of death. The black mist turned into a divine spear in his hand, and he pointed it at Crown Prince Mu's chest. The black mist was extremely vicious, and the spirit fruits and flowers on the tables around the old man melted into pus as soon as they came into contact with it. One had to know that even with the wealth of the primordial era, the divine wood used to make the banquet tables in the heaven court was the essence of the heart of the divine wood, which was billions of years old and had obtained the essence of the second and first wood of the east. Not to mention the baleful aura, even the filthy blood water that Fan Wu-jie and the others encountered earlier was nothing more than dirty water used to wipe the tables. However, when it came into contact with the murderous aura that came out of the old man's nostrils, it melted instantly. Fan Wu-jie had a whole new level of respect for him. Although he was just a bootlicker in front of Crown Prince Bo-jun, an expert was still an expert, and he wouldn't lose his power just because he lowered himself to bootlick. The white stream of air contained the Western Golden Gung energy, and was extremely sharp. The slightest contact with it was like countless divine blades cutting through bones. The black and white stream of air split into two, and the white stream of air turned into countless golden gung flying daggers that slashed toward Xuetu and Wuxing, while the black stream of air turned into a long spear that stabbed toward Crown Prince Mu's chest. Fan Wu-jie's heart raced, and he quickly deployed a universal barrier in front of Crown Prince Mu. However, the universal barrier, which had always been successful, was like a thin piece of paper in front of the black mist. It was broken inch by inch, and each inch took nearly 100 years. It could even taint the universal true water. Fan Wu-jie's heart tightened, and he pushed the universal escape art to the extreme, rushing over to block the attack for Crown Prince Mu. Crown Prince Mu didn't panic, but when he saw Fan Wu-jie rushing over to him, he still felt a warmth in his heart, and the doubt that had just risen in his heart vanished. He thought to himself, "Brother Wu-jie and the other few brothers are, after all, itinerant cultivators, and I know how it is like among itinerant cultivators. They haven't been educated by the heavens' etiquette, and they are very arrogant and overbearing. Perhaps they think that they are doing this for my own good. Great magus murderous aura." Xuetu said slowly, "This is the ferocious murderous aura refined by the primordial magus Tao, and it is specially used to break the protective divine flames of fire elemental divine beasts like Baifeng and Vermilion Bird." Ajati finally put on a serious expression. He sneered and said, "Crown Prince Bo-jun, you sure are impressive. Our Crown Prince is on the same level as you, and yet, your old servant is so insensible?" I told you to kneel, and you still dare to fight back? Ajati slashed out with his sword, and with a slight tremor, the black and white energies, the countless flying daggers, and the divine spear were all shattered, and even the western gold essence chi and the great magus murderous aura were swept away. Fan Wu Jie's body shook again and again. Ajati was going all out, and it was only now that he realized how much weaker he was compared to these veteran Dao monarchs. Before this, Fan Wu Jie thought that Yuan Yu, Xue Tu, and Wu Xing should be at the primordial Xian level like him, and that Zhang Jiao should be at the primordial Xian level. But now, it seemed that he was the only one who was right. The three of them were not weaker than Zhang Jiao, and might even be stronger. But even so, Fan Wu Jie still thought that they were no match for Zhang Jiao, because the pressure of an innate spirit treasure was too great, so great that it could easily overcome the difference in power between them. The difference in power between those below the level of Dara was meaningless to an innate spirit treasure. Xue Tu King attacked again. This time, his body flashed, and in a flash of red light, he arrived in front of the old man. He reached out and grabbed the back of the old man's head, pressing the old man's head against the table. He extended his leg and gave a heavy kick to the old man's knee, forcing him to kneel on the ground. Tears of humiliation flowed out of the old man's eyes, and Prince Bo Jun's face turned ugly. All the immortals at the Skybearer assembly felt their hearts tremble when they saw this scene. That old man was a veteran Tao Lord, and his divine powers were astonishing. Few people present could say that they could easily withstand his attack. He was a sect leader of a region in the Brightblaze realm, but such a person could only be a dog in the heavenly court, and was wantonly bullied by the important figures of the heavenly court. He had merely offended that mysterious imperial prince, yet he was forced to kneel on the ground. Just how domineering was that? Prince Mu, who was on the stage, felt guilty. He whispered to the people around him, "Isn't this too much? Why don't we let him get up, and I'll apologize to him and let this misunderstanding go?" Yuan Yu said in a low voice, "Prince, you mustn't do this. Who do you think you are? How can you make a mistake? Prince, you won't make a mistake. It's the others who are at fault. It's all our subordinates and those ignorant people who don't know what's good for them. That person is just a dog of Prince Bo Jun. Didn't you see that even Prince Bo Jun didn't stand up for him? You and Prince Bo Jun are on the same level, so how can you apologize to his dog?" "But," Father said. Prince Mu's rebuttal was very weak. Xue Tu King said in a low, muffled voice, "Prince, think about it. Even if you are a little arrogant and domineering, making the common people unhappy, is that important to the Heaven Court? Is it important to the common people's opinion of you? As long as you don't lose your merit, being a little overbearing will prevent those ignorant people from making bigger mistakes. If you indulge them too much, they won't know what's good for them and make bigger mistakes. Your Highness, didn't that person want to kill you just now? If you don't teach him a lesson, the common people will think that the prince's prestige can be easily offended, and the Heaven Court will lose its dignity as a ruler. The Heaven Court rules the world with prestige and virtue. Virtue means that the Heaven Court will bless the world, and virtue means that the Heaven Court will slaughter the demon race and punish the disobedient subjects. Your Highness, that's what you should do." Prince Mu looked at the respectful gazes of the crowd. In their eyes, he seemed to have reached the same status as Prince Bo Jun. In the past, he had always been ignored, and when did he have such a sense of existence? Previously, when he went out to work, people would look at him like he was a noble young master with a golden signboard. There was envy, jealousy, and flattery, but no dignity or power. But now, no one dared to disregard his opinion, and no one dared to ignore him. All of a sudden, he stood at a new height. Imperial Prince Mu said nervously and excitedly, "Brothers, please keep a low profile. Don't make it seem like I'm too arrogant. If my father hears about this, he'll definitely scold me. Of course, I have to maintain my dignity. I finally have a bit of my father's elegance." Yuan Yu encouraged, That's right, Your Highness, don't lose your dignity. Prince Mu wanted to say something else, but Xue Tu and Wu Xing stood on his left and right. Yuan Yu created a golden bridge that was 100 times more majestic than Prince Bo Jun's golden rainbow. The golden bridge floated above the wind, earth, water, and fire, the white jade pavilion, and was above everything. All matter and energy flowed under the bridge, and all changes in matter and time were under the bridge. Even though Yuan Yu's golden bridge only had 1/10,000th of its power, that wisp of chaotic aura was enough to intimidate everyone. As Prince Mu walked on the bridge, he immediately became the center of attention, and his dignity and extravagance were unparalleled. Back when Shao He built the palace, even Liu Bang thought it was too extravagant. Shao He advised, "The Son of Heaven has the 4 seas as his home, and if it isn't majestic, it can't be majestic." Majesty and extravagance were not completely extravagant and useless. Instead, they were the stupidity of all living beings, and if it wasn't majestic, it couldn't be majestic. The heaven ruled over all living beings, and the Emperor of Heaven was selfless, and all living beings were united. What Yuan Yu and Xue Tu had brought out was also the natural order of the era. Prince Mu, who had been neglected and educated for a long time, immediately felt it when he experienced the wonders of being domineering. For someone like him, who had been neglected for a long time, it was easier for him to feel the changes in the way others looked at him. What surprised Prince Mu was that his arrogant and domineering actions didn't arouse the disgust of the immortals below the platform. Instead, they looked at him with even more respect and reverence. With every move he made, he felt like he held great power and the majesty of a god ruling over the world. At this moment, Prince Mu finally understood that his polite concession didn't seem magnanimous and kingly when compared to Prince Bo Jun. Instead, it made the immortal officials of the heaven look down on him. Although their attitudes towards Prince Bo Jun were different, with some being close to him and some being dissatisfied with him, they were all looking at him like he was a noble of the same status. Although most of them looked at him cordially, they were still looking at him like he was a junior with a lower status than them. Now that he was majestic and domineering, they finally looked at him seriously. Prince Mu immediately shut his mouth, which was about to persuade Yuan Yu and the others, and immersed himself in the role that Yuan Yu and the others had set for him. Prince Bo Jun finally paid attention to this Prince Mu who had appeared out of nowhere. He brought his subordinates to the opposite side of the Golden Bridge and said, "So it's Prince Mu. I'm currently inspecting this young talent of the Brightside region to carry out his duty of inspection. I wonder why Prince Mu has come to the Brightside region for sightseeing despite having no authority? It's my fault for not being a good host." Prince Mu didn't need Yuan Yu and the others' guidance. He said without a teacher, "Prince Bo Jun must be joking. Although I don't care about worldly affairs, my father, Emperor Zhuanxu, is in charge of yin and yang. I have to share my father's burdens, so it's natural for me to occasionally observe the affairs of the people. Occasionally, there are local tyrants who violate the law and ignore the laws of heaven. I can also punish them. There are also demons, barbarians, devils, remnants of the ancient gods, as well as evil gods and ferocious beasts. I have the responsibility to punish them as well." Prince Mu said indifferently, "I'm out of practice. I just want to know how to hunt demons, barbarians, and slaughter evil. Although I don't have an official position, it's as if I do. This is the original intention of Emperor of Heaven's laws of merit. Following the heavens is merit, and following the Tao is virtue. I'm following the merit and becoming a pillar of the heaven." Prince Bo Jun took a step forward and said solemnly, "Prince Mu, you must be joking. Who calls themselves a pillar of the heaven?" Prince Mu said indifferently, "Oh, didn't Prince Bo Jun call me shepherd boy in the past? Do you know your limits now? Doesn't this mean that I'm becoming a pillar of the heaven?" Upon hearing the words shepherd boy by Suzhen, who was on the white jade platform, raised her head in shock and looked at Prince Mu. Little Qing said in surprise, "Shepherd boy. Sister, isn't that what the Holy Mother said?" Little Qing, don't speak. The Holy Mother said it vaguely. It might not be that person. Little Qing said excitedly, although this person is a little arrogant and domineering, he has a heroic air. Furthermore, his identity is extraordinary, and he is related to the Heaven's Empyrean Lord. Prince Bo Jun also thinks highly of him. I'm afraid that his identity is complicated. Little Bai said solemnly, we sisters are not the kind of female demons who do not know what's good for themselves by trying to curry favor with the nobles of the heaven. I'm focused on cultivating to attain enlightenment, and my greatest dream is to be a free and unfettered demonic immortal god. Now that my fated person's identity is so complicated, if I were to be embroiled in it, I'm afraid I'll be doomed eternally. Little Qing, I'm feeling uneasy. It's like there are signs of an impending tribulation. Although this person has the word Mu in his name, he might not be the fated person. He might even be the evil star that I have to face the tribulation. This tribulation is unfathomable. Little Qing, quickly turn back and seek the protection of the Holy Mother. Don't accompany me in facing the tribulation. Little Qing was obviously unwilling to comply. She shook her head and said, Sister, our fates are linked. If you are to face the tribulation, how can I escape? Ignoring the fact that I'm unwilling, even if I were to escape, my outcome would probably be even worse. Now we sisters need to work together. If we face the tribulation, we might have a chance of survival. Yuan Yu set up the golden bridge, while Xue Tu visualized the countless red lotuses of fire blooming in the sea of blood on the white jade platform. In an instant, the red lotuses on the white jade platform suddenly bloomed. There were millions of them stacked on top of each other, forming a lotus sea. They bloomed in front of the white jade platform, forming 2 rows of seats. Prince Mu did not stand on ceremony, and sat at the head of one of the rows, followed by Yuan Yu and company. Crown Prince Bo Jun sat on the seat of honor opposite Crown Prince Mu. His subordinates also sat down one after another, sitting down in a row. Compared to the 3 to 5 people opposite them, their presence was much greater. As for Colonel Qin and Heavenly Eye Divine Man, they were already in a difficult position. According to the etiquette of attending a banquet, it was not allowed to have a large group of people on one side and only a few people on the other side. However, these seats were clearly meant for standing. Who would dare to sit down so easily? Only the few experts from the Milky Way Navy hesitated for a moment before starting to sit on Prince Mu's side. Yuan Yu's heart immediately calmed down. The Milky Way Navy is on Emperor Zhuanxu's side. That's right, if Emperor Zhuanxu lost his military power, how could he defeat Tung Wangkung? Looks like the military power is still in the hands of Emperor Zhuanxu's side. No wonder Emperor Ziyang wanted to obtain the support of the local tyrants. Chapter 1304. Sure enough, the people on and off the white jade platform, upon seeing the Milky Way Navy's vague declaration, all felt a chill in their hearts. They no longer dared to underestimate the mysterious Imperial Prince Mu. On the white jade platform, although Imperial Prince Mu's side's momentum was slightly weaker, they could still faintly contend with Imperial Prince Bo Jun. In terms of momentum, they were not at a disadvantage. Demon King Jiao frowned and thought, strange? It is said that Imperial Prince Mu keeps a low profile. Although he is favored by Imperial Emperor Donghua, he does not have any power. Among the princes of the heavenly court, he is very low-key. That is why we chose to start with him. But the situation now is a little strange. Could it be that Emperor Donghua is finally ready to let Prince Mu establish his influence in the heavenly court? The few people next to him have extraordinary cultivation. Could it be that they are also masters sent by Imperial Lord Donghua to assist his son? Demon Heart Old Man secretly transmitted his voice. Demon King Jiao, when I secretly triggered the demonic thoughts to control Prince Mu's inner demon, I was inexplicably infected and stopped. I am afraid the plan has changed. That's impossible. Only the 7 great sages know about this plan. It's impossible for it to be leaked. Even you only just found out about it. Old man inner demon, if there's a problem, it's most likely on your side. Demon heart old man sneered. I am a man of my word. I will not go back on my word. But he also had some doubts. Why did the method that stopped my inner demon power seem to be the work of a master from the demon clan? Does the old ancestor have another plan? However, old man inner demon did not voice his guess. He said in a low voice, there are many ways to subdue inner demons, but be it the meditation techniques of Buddhism, the meritorious arts of the heavenly court, or the demon-subduing arts of the Taoist sects, it is not easy to do so silently and colorlessly. If it is not a mighty figure of a higher level, they would not be able to make me return without making a sound. They would have to do it from the 2 great realms of illusion. The land of dreams and the great illusionary land? Demon King Jiao frowned. Perfected Nan Hua and 8 visions Tao Lord have always been free and unfettered. They do not get involved in the affairs of the untainted land. Why would they help Prince Mu? As for those who knew the inside story, they weren't surprised by Prince Mu's background. Ever since the Emperor of Heaven, the inside story of the heavenly court became more and more cloudy to the people who were governed. Although the people did not know nothing about the heavenly court, they knew very little about it. To the immortals who had been conferred the title of the heavenly court, the rules of the heavenly court were naturally like golden books and jade book. But to the people, the rules of the heavenly court were a kind of unspeakable taboo that was difficult to understand and understand. Countless demons had died under the wrath of the heavenly court without knowing it. Although the Emperor of Heaven was harsh to the demon race, he had a saying, demons cannot be punished if they do not accept teachings. The Emperor of Heaven had once engraved the law of heaven into the great Tao. Demon spirits that had awakened their spiritual intelligence would naturally know the laws of the law of heaven. Therefore, although there were many tribulations for demons, they would only be restricted by the law of heaven after awakening their spiritual intelligence. Only then would there be heavenly thunder, heavenly fire, and inner demon wind. And the law of merit was established by the Emperor of Heaven as the foundation of the great Tao of heaven and earth. The 5 elements, 5 virtues, 5 tribulations, and 5 fortunes rotated. Every cultivator in the world knew how to cultivate merit, to follow the will of heaven, and not suffer from tribulations. As the saying went, the merit was mysterious, the virtue was yellow, the moral was clear, the holy virtue was white, and the virtue was red. The 5 virtues rotated and enlightened all living beings. Ever since the Emperor of Heaven fused with the Tao and the heavenly court's reform, the laws of the law of merit became more and more secretive. Even now, very few people knew about it. This was also a major move of the Tung Wang Kung's reform to weaken the foundation of the law of merit. The Tung Wang Kung believed that all living beings could be made aware of it, but not. Once the law of heaven was clear, all living beings would lose their reverence for the law. They would think of ways to exploit the loopholes in the law of heaven. Therefore, the law of heaven should be made to be like lightning, hanging high above all living beings with unfathomable divine power. Only then would all living beings revere the law of heaven as they worshipped lightning. How could the will of heaven be known? A will of heaven that was known not only could not deter evil, but also could not make all living beings revere it. Some people objected with the previous law of the Emperor of Heaven, thinking that killing without teaching would cause all living beings to question the fairness of the law of heaven. However, the Tung Wang Kung did not get angry. Instead, he laughed and tried it out. In the end, compared to the unfathomable will of heaven and the clear will of heaven, all living beings were more willing to believe in the invisible and untouchable will of heaven and revere the unfathomable will of heaven. On the contrary, the clear will of heaven was often questioned and criticized. Therefore, the gods were convinced. From then on, the law of heaven was divided into light and dark laws. For immortals and gods, any ghostly immortal who was conferred a title in the heavenly court and had power and responsibility had to understand the law of the heavenly court. Below them, all living beings who were not in the system of the heavenly court could not pry into the law of heaven. The will of heaven was unfathomable to them. The Tung Wang Kung's reform went against the tradition of letting all living beings know the law of the Emperor of Heaven. The operation of the law was divided into two levels. The enforcers knew the law and understood it, while the living beings were ignorant. As a result, the authority of the ghostly immortals, which had been restrained during the time of the Emperor of Heaven, lost its restraints and began to expand. Therefore, it was approved by the immortals and gods and became the first official move of the Tung Wang Kung's reform. From this point on, the system of governance of the heavenly court designed by the Emperor of Heaven was torn open. In the past, the Emperor of Heaven used the merit law to promote the ghostly immortals and guide all living beings. He used the law of heaven to punish demons and restrict the ghostly immortals. The merit law and the law of heaven, one reward and one punishment, established the system of reward and punishment for the ghostly immortals and all living beings. To the ghostly immortals, it was called law. The ghostly immortals were the enforcers and power system of the law of the heavenly court, but at the same time, the living beings supervised the ghostly immortals. Now that the Tung Wang Kung abolished the teachings of the Emperor of Heaven, it was equivalent to cutting off the chain that supervised the ghostly immortals. Unknowingly, he expanded the authority of the ghostly immortals and was naturally welcomed by the theocracy of the heavenly court. After attacking the law of heaven, the Tung Wang Kung, under the indulgence of Emperor Zhuanxu, attacked the merit law again. Therefore, the merit law gradually became less known in the primordial world. Cultivators all knew that the merit law was a supreme divine item. When the merit divine light shone on one's body, one could achieve enlightenment and ask the heavenly court to confer a title. It could improve one's cultivation, deepen one's understanding of the great Tao, and even increase one's dharmic powers. It could prove one's divinity externally and cultivate one's body internally. It was the primordial world's panacea, the number one divine item for cultivation. It could be used to refine dharma treasures, used for cultivation, raised one's status, and allowed one to live forever. It was a supreme treasure. Even in the era of Brahmavujya, there was still the merit law left in the foundation of the great Tao of the universe that operated the five virtues. Any one of the five virtues was a cultivation resource that surpassed any heavenly treasure. After the series of reforms by the Tung Wang Kung, the merit law had become a great Tao of cultivation. It was secretly passed down by many large sects and even mighty figures. How to cultivate the merit law, other than a vague description of doing good and accumulating virtue, there was no clear explanation. Some mighty figures could still use the hidden great Tao of merit to calculate the location of a portion of the merit law and let their disciples collect it. However, no one could cultivate the real great Tao of merit. All the clans and sects were stuffing their own goods into the great Tao of merit and virtue that the celestial Dharch had set up, infiltrating their own morals and ethics into the idea that the celestial Dharch had set his heart and life for all living beings. When the Emperor of Heaven made the law, he used clear standards to advocate and reward those who protected the rule of the heavenly court and helped the operation of the law. However, after the reform, the black-yellow merit chi was gradually difficult to be witnessed. Even if many people had merit, they did not know where it came from or how to cultivate it. One could rely on the mighty figures to calculate the various inconsistencies and contradictions accumulated in the operation of heaven and earth. Many living beings were entangled with many karma. When the operation of heaven and earth was not smooth, calamities and tribulations would descend. By suppressing natural disasters and eliminating tribulations, one could immediately obtain merit. The entanglement of karma often led to tribulations. By following the mandate of heaven and cutting off karma, one could also obtain merit. The power to explain and the idea of the great Tao of merit was controlled by the mighty figures. The Emperor of Heaven opened up a path of great Tao for all living beings. Gradually, it was monopolized by the powerful figures until the Buddhist sect supported the underworld. Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva entered the underworld and used the art of karma to erode the art of nether virtue. As a result, the 5 virtues collapsed. The mystic door and the Buddhist sect used this to interfere with the underworld's reincarnation. When the Emperor of Heaven banished concubine Hutu, he used the art of nether virtue to replace Hutu's heavenly Tao for reincarnation. This was the first time he interfered with reincarnation. Although he destroyed the order of the heavenly Tao, the Emperor of Heaven's law was still considered fair. Although it was bad to interfere with reincarnation, the actual situation was not serious. The situation where reincarnation was distorted by the karma of all living beings could still be controlled. Later on, the art of nether virtue was destroyed and Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva entered the underworld. The second time he interfered with reincarnation was very violent. Various sects wantonly interfered with reincarnation and replaced the heavenly Tao with their own ethical and moral concept. The art of heavenly Tao that Hutu created reincarnation was simple and straightforward. The heavenly Tao was natural. Death was like the extinguishing of a lamp. Reincarnation had nothing to do with the previous life. It was like ashes and smoke. The next life was not a continuation of the previous life. As for the art of nether virtue set up by the Emperor of Heaven, there was the inheritance of good and evil, but it did not continue to the next life. The art of nether virtue did not enter reincarnation. It was inherited by the descendant. The descendants could accumulate virtue for their ancestors, and the ancestors could also accumulate good fortune for the descendant. Those who cultivated the art of nether virtue died, and turned into Een spirit. They temporarily entered the underworld as Een deities. While performing the duties of the underworld, they could also receive the art of nether virtue from their descendants. When the conditions were right, they could turn into Yang deities and ascend to the heavenly court. This was based on the art of divine path set up by Hutu in the past. It was carried out according to the agreement between gods and ghosts. Although the art of nether virtue was destroyed by Hutu, the art of nether virtue did not enter the future and did not interfere with reincarnation. Even if one cultivated more art of nether virtue, he could only become a god in heaven. He could not interfere with reincarnation and the choice of reincarnation in the next life. Therefore, the karma accumulated by all living beings would not continue to the next life because of reincarnation. It was until the mystic door of Buddhism interfered with the art of nether virtue that the art of karma eroded the art of nether virtue and interfered with reincarnation in the name of good and evil. In the name of settling the karma of nether virtue, it was actually the so-called karma of samsara. Under the name of accumulating art of nether virtue, the karma of the previous life became entangled with the next life. It snowballed continuously and reincarnation was gradually infected. In this way, reincarnation was poisonous. Therefore, Hutu, Empress and Viwa, River Styx and the others plotted to destroy the underworld and settle the score with the mystic door of Buddhism on reincarnation. Therefore, a group of Een deities, Yenluo of the underworld, and even the great mediums of Buddhism, Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, who was sitting on the lotus throne, were all killed, causing a great tribulation that was not inferior to the heaven court. It caused the netherworld to collapse, and reincarnation could only hide in the ultimate. The destruction of the heaven court actually started from the concealment of the art of heaven and the isolation of the heaven from the human world. However, the isolation of the heaven from the human world was still the basic policy of Emperor Zhuanxu. The living beings were not even clear about the fair and open art of heaven, let alone the power struggle in the heaven court that was hard to be known by outsiders. Beneath the white jade platform, all the living beings, cultivators, and immortals saw Prince Mu and Prince Bo Jun standing against each other as equals. Although their momentum was slightly weaker, the mighty figures who supported Prince Mu seemed to have a higher status and were more powerful. Immediately they whispered to each other, "Another prince is here. This prince is so overbearing. He doesn't even give face to Prince Bo Jun. It is said that he is the son of Emperor Donghua. Emperor Donghua is the deputy emperor of the Heaven Court, and his status is even higher than Emperor Ziyang. Of course, he doesn't have to give face to anyone." Yuan Yu's incarnation fanned the flames in the crowd. Prince Mu is too overbearing. No wonder that powerful being from the future dared to kill in front of Prince Bo Jun. So he has this big backer. Emperor Mu is so overbearing. I'm afraid his status in the Heaven Court is higher than Prince Bo Jun's. Emperor Donghua? It is said that Emperor Donghua had something to do with the demotion of the Duke of the East and the collapse of the Zifu continent. He is the most powerful minister in front of Emperor Zhuanxu, and his power in the Heaven Court is amazing. He is the son of the Emperor who suppressed the Duke of the East. No wonder he is so arrogant. Don't speak nonsense. Do you want to die? When the time comes, you will be recorded in the book of life and death, and the heavenly book will take away your providence, making you die without knowing why. How can we criticize such a mighty figure? Among the mighty figures on the white jade platform, which one of them didn't have amazing hearing? Even if they were blind and deaf, with a sweep of their divine senses, they could naturally understand what was being said below. Crown Prince Bo Jun's eyes flashed with a hint of anger. What did those ignorant commoners know? In the Heaven Court, a mere shepherd boy had to walk with his tail between his legs in front of him. Shepherd boy was weak by nature and did not have a firm will. He was easily swayed by others. This weak personality made him filial and gentle, but at the same time, he was unable to bear great ambitions. Therefore, although his father, Emperor Donghua, doted on him, he did not give him any power. He was only raised by his side, a young son who was doted on. As for Bo Jun, he had a firm will and astonishing ambition since he was young. Or rather, he had been nurtured and valued by his father early on. The two of them could not be compared, but that shepherd boy had been bewitched for some reason, and his mental demons had taken over him. He had suddenly stepped forward to embarrass Prince Bo Jun. Prince Bo Jun signaled to Zhang Jiao, "It's time for you to hand in your allegiance." Receiving Prince Bo Jun's signal, Zhang Jiao's expression remained calm. He stood up and said, "Zhang Jiao of the Path of Peace greets Prince Mu. Duke Huang is a loyal elder, a virtuous figure. Just because of a slip of the tongue, he has been humiliated by Prince Mu's subordinates. Isn't that a little too much?" Yuan Yu stepped forward and said lightly, "You are Zhang Jiao of the Path of Peace? Prince Mu is kind and has always been kind to others. However, this person is bold and arrogant. Just because he has some cultivation, he dares to look down on the Heaven Court and the laws of heaven. He has no respect for his superiors and does not know the immensity of heaven and earth. I wanted to give him a light warning to show the dignity of the Heaven Court and proclaim Prince Mu's magnanimity. Who knew that he would have such vicious intentions? How can I punish him lightly? Zhang Jiao, if you understand the bigger picture, then break off all relations with this person to show that you respect the laws of heaven. Now that you have jumped out to fight for this person, is it because you are dissatisfied with the Heaven Court and want to interfere with the laws?" Zhang Jiao placed the 9-section staff in his hand and said indifferently, "I am talking to Prince Mu. What rank is a servant like you in the Heaven Court? You have no rank, no status, and yet you dare to speak to me like this. This shows how much Prince Mu looks down on the talents of the world. How dare a servant look down on the talents of the world? Have you forgotten the teachings of the Duke of the East? Since you are so lax in controlling your subordinates, Prince Mu, it seems like you lack discipline. I will teach this servant a lesson for you. He gently raised the 9-section staff, and 9 heavenly realms appeared on the 9-section staff. Each of the heavenly realms contained countless gods. With a shake of the 9-section staff, it transformed into a huge heavenly pillar that supported the 9 heavens. With infinite power, it struck toward Yuan Yu. Prince Mu was shocked. Not good. The life-saving jade talisman that my father gave me is trembling. Father said that if there is something wrong with the jade talisman, then the enemy is definitely not someone I can deal with. He told me to crush the jade talisman and escape. Zhang Jiao is so powerful that he can threaten my life with an innate spiritual treasure. But this time, he wants to deal with Brother Xingyang. Even my life-saving jade talisman can't stop him. Brother Xingyang is in danger. Prince Mu gritted his teeth and decided to block the attack for Yuan Yu, even at the risk of losing face. Yuan Yu sneered in his heart. I have finally lured you to attack. Let me see. Who exactly is the person behind you? Which of the primeval 9 emperors wants to overthrow the Heaven Court? Brother Zhao Gongming reminded me that someone in the Mystic Door is trying to use primeval beginning as the sole ruler and return to the era when the primeval Heavenly King ruled everything. I thought it was Teacher Primeval's old subordinates who didn't want to be left out. Now, it seems that someone wants to use Teacher Primeval's name to help him become the Emperor of Heaven. Whether I, Yuan Yu, am a disciple of the Mystic Door or a deputy cult master of the Demon Gate, I will not allow such an ambitious person to succeed. Yuan Yu was about to reveal a bit of his grand heavenly immortal's strength, but as soon as he made his move, he felt a chaotic profound orb that shone with 5-colored light that resembled a world falling into his bosom soundlessly. Yuan Yu was shocked when he touched it. Senior brother. He was shocked. It was one of the 24 sea-calming divine beads in his hands. Yuan Yu thought quickly, is it Senior Brother Zhao Gongming or Patriarch River Styx? Or Dipamkara? Senior Brother, please make your move. Yuan Yu bowed forward, and the sea-calming divine bead in his arms leaped out with 5-colored light like a 5-colored sun. Yuan Yu took out the divine bead and activated its power slightly, transforming into a huge world. There was a clear light, white light, and countless immortal lights of different colors in it, making it hard for people to look at it directly. The 5-colored light shone and broke the 9 worlds of the 9-section staff. Then, it fell down and hit the 9-section staff. Zhang Jiao felt a great force coming from the 9-section staff. It was extremely heavy and broke all changes. Whether it was the divine power of the 9 degrees of the Great Tao or the nature of the 9-section staff as a primordial spiritual treasure, they could not bear such a huge weight. The force suppressed all changes in a straightforward manner. Zhang Jiao could not deal with it and could only bear it. It was as if a world had smashed down, heavier than the 4 seas of the primordial world. Zhang Jiao's face turned pale from the impact, and he almost lost his breath. Even the 5 elemental deities condensed in his chest were smashed apart, almost scattering the 5 qis in his chest. Zhang Jiao staggered and almost fell to the ground. Even though he managed to maintain his figure, the 9-section staff in his hand inevitably slipped. The primordial spiritual treasure transformed by the Emperor was beaten to the ground for the 2nd time today. Zhang Jiao's hair was disheveled, and his Taoist robe was disheveled from the impact of the aura on his body. He staggered and took 1 step back, 2 steps, 3 steps before he could barely stand. 5 deep footprints were left on the white jade platform, shattering a restriction. Seeing the 5-colored divine bead fall, Crown Prince Bo Jun exclaimed in shock, the sea-calming divine bead. First the 4 immortal slaying swords, then the sea-calming divine bead. Is that grand heavenly venerable really dissatisfied? Crown Prince Bo Jun's face paled, and Zhang Jiao's heart was filled with fear. Chapter 1305. Sea-calming divine pearl. Demon King Jiao's heart sank. Legend has it that the Grand Master of Heaven admires Emperor Heaven of Heaven the most among the three pure ones. Could the rumors be true? First the four immortal vanquishing swords, then the sea-calming divine pearl. It seems like the mystic door's attitude is not unanimous. There are even differences. Yes, Emperor Zhuanxu does not have the boldness to stand up to Emperor Heaven. He often shows goodwill to great heavenly venerate primordial beginning. With these people protecting him, it will be difficult to carry out the plan to attack Mu Boy. Old man mental demon retreated pathetically. No, someone is protecting Prince Mu. I have failed several times. Great Sage Jiao, find another opportunity in the future. Demon King Jiao said decisively, no. We will wait for the demons to attack. If we delay any longer, the matter might be leaked and change. After all, the demons are not united. Also, the Imperial Lord doesn't have much time left for us. The Imperial Lord's return to the primordial world is imminent, and the demon race's divine court is about to descend. Before that, we have to divert the heavenly court's attention. We have to make the primordial world burn and mobilize the heavenly court's troops from the outside. This way, the heavenly court will have to suppress the primordial world from the inside and defend against the divine court from the outside. That Imperial Lord Ziyang and the other ambitious people are waiting for the heavenly court's power to be depleted. Only when these goo worms lurking within the heavenly court take action can they overturn the heavenly court. In order to support the God Emperor's great plan to overturn the world, the 10,000 races loyal to the God Emperor chose us, the 7 sages. Prince Mu can't do it. Isn't there another prince? Demon King Jiao said with a cold gaze. Old man mental demon sucked in a breath of cold air. Attacking Prince Bo Jun, but isn't he your ally? How can they be allies? We are only temporarily cooperating for our mutual benefit. They don't treat us as allies, and we won't treat them as allies. We are just using each other. Demon King Jiao sneered. Instigating Prince Bo Jun to attack Prince Mu, I will gather the 7 sages. Now that Prince Mu has appeared, if we act against him, we will have to consider the intervention of the Milky Way Navy. Only by calling the others over will we have absolute confidence in delaying those unknown people along with the Milky Way Navy. The person pretending to be Crown Prince Bo Jun killed Crown Prince Mu and framed by Suzhen. In order to clear his name, Crown Prince Bo Jun would have to track down the murderer and use this opportunity to slaughter those demons who are close to the heavenly court and cultivate virtue. There's no way Prince Bo Jun doesn't know that we did it. Old man mental demon whispered. So what if he finds out that we did it? Even if he pinches his nose, he'll still bear with it. The demons assassinated Celestial Emperor Dong Hua's son, Lord Mu Jun, so Prince Bo Jun will hunt down the demon tribes related to the case. The massacre will incite public anger among the demons, which will lead to riots. This way we can incite the anger of all the demons and rebel together. The key to this plan is none other than the Heavenly Court's supervisor envoy in the Bright Glow region. The local power is controlled by Imperial Emperor Ziyang's people, so once there is a major case, there will be a strategic gap before the Heavenly Courts controlled by Emperor Zhuanxu can react. Using this gap, Prince Bo Jun will be able to act on his own. Suppressing the demons is a strategy set by Emperor Heaven. Easing the relationship between humans and demons is Imperial Emperor Ziyang's position. Therefore, Prince Bo Jun will suppress the demons in the name of investigating Prince Mu's assassin. Emperor Zhuanxu can't pursue the matter because if he does, he will have to give the demons an explanation. Once he gives the demons an explanation, Imperial Emperor Ziyang, who is in cahoots with the demons, will have a lot of room to maneuver. Therefore, Prince Mu's massacre of the demons will incite a riot among the demons that will target the heavenly courts. When Prince Bo Jun massacred the demons, Imperial Emperor Ziyang will have a chance to act. It was clearly Prince Bo Jun who massacred the demons, but in the end, he managed to get Imperial Emperor Ziyang to come forward and negotiate with the demons. Old Man Mental Demon smacked his lips and praised. If people like you and Ziyang become mental demons, you will definitely be able to attain the position of Mental Demon Crown Prince and have a place in the Mental Demon realm. Inverting black and white, colluding with outsiders and outsiders. Wonderful. Wonderful. This is in line with the tradition of the Devil Path. This is Emperor Zhuanshu's own policy. On one hand, he wants to rely on the authority of Emperor Heaven, and on the other hand, he wants to eliminate Emperor Heaven's authority. Therefore, when facing the demons, it is like his primordial spirit is split. On the one hand, he can't suppress and purge demons openly like Emperor Heaven. On the other hand, he can't compare to Tung Wang Kung and Imperial Emperor Ziyang, who can set things right and reconcile with the demons. Emperor Zhuanshu's position is destined to be bullied on both sides. If he compromises with the demons, the old officials of Emperor Heaven will definitely be dissatisfied. Those stubborn old people of the human race will also cause trouble. Emperor Zhuanshu's foundation will be in trouble. If he is tough on the demons, it will definitely affect his new policies. It will be difficult for him to escape the influence of Emperor Heaven, and he will also lose the support of the demons. On the contrary, Imperial Emperor Ziyang has the upper hand. Even if his son, Crown Prince Bo-jun, massacred the demons, he can still turn the tables and turn the temporary disadvantage into an advantage for the overall situation. Do you believe that even if the massacre was done by Crown Prince Bo-jun, the 7 great sages can blame it on Emperor Zhuanshu? Old Man Mental Demon smiled bitterly and said, "You are the leaders of the demons. You have great influence in the demon race. Aren't you the ones who decide what is right and wrong?" In this kind of contradiction and entanglement, the truth is not important. Demon King Jiao said calmly, "It is what we say the truth is. This operation can be carried out by me alone. Now that things have come to this, we have no choice but to ask the other great sages to take action. Then our original plan of having the 7 great sages attack at different places in the primordial world at the same time and cause chaos will fail. In that case, we have to make more moves and make more breakthroughs. We have to make the matter bigger along the way. The other routes will cooperate and we will hold on here. Only then can they cause trouble." Demon King Jiao said, "I have already contacted the other great sages. They are rushing over. Make your move on Crown Prince Bo-jun now, and knock him out temporarily. Crown Prince Bo-jun has a numinous treasure that can guard against mental demons and clear his mind." Old Man Mental Demon smiled and said, "It's a little difficult to make him unconscious. If it's not difficult, why would we ask you, Old Man Mental Demon, to take action?" Demon King Jiao smiled and said. Old Man Mental Demon laughed. "Demon King Jiao knows me well. This small difficulty is not difficult for me. In the primordial world, there were countless Dharma spells that could confuse one's mind. Didn't the demons look for Old Man Mental Demon because they were outstanding in the Tao of mental demons and were best in this aspect? And Old Man Mental Demon was also an outstanding expert in this aspect of the Tao of mental demons. He was one of the few experts who had refined their mental demons to the point where they were not afraid of merit and could affect providence. Old Man Mental Demon's great mental demon art could already affect the target's providence. Now there were experts who had mastered the Tao of destiny. They could see that Crown Prince Bo-jun's providence was colorful. It rolled down from his head like a canopy. The colorful canopy of providence was several acres in radius. It was extremely shocking. It could be seen that Crown Prince Bo-jun had obtained the great providence of the heavenly courts. In a small place like the bright barbaric domain, he was definitely the son of providence. Anyone who faced him would have to lower their head. Any kind of plot would be dodged by his good fortune. However, Old Man Mental Demon flicked his fingers and released a few wisps of obscure black gas that quietly attached to the canopy of providence. After a while, Crown Prince Bo-jun felt slightly uncomfortable. However, His attention was still focused on Crown Prince Mu, who had suddenly risen to power. This slight abnormality was instantly thrown to the back of his mind. The wisps of faint black gas gradually seeped into the canopy, destroying the purity of the colorful gas. Thus, the five-colored providence on the canopy gradually became impure and dimmed. The canopy also became a little weary, shrinking from several acres to 1/3 of its original size. Old man mental demons' demonic thoughts targeted the providence. Anyone would think that Crown Prince Bo-jun had been suppressed by Crown Prince Mu, causing his providence to weaken. That was why his mind was muddled, making it difficult for him to discover the demonic method. On the other side, Demon King Jiao was contacting someone. A deep male voice said to him, "Second brother, you've adapted well. Crown Prince Mu can't do it, but it's the same for Crown Prince Bo-jun. His Highness God Emperor is about to return. We must create an opportunity for His Highness. Third brother, fourth brother, and fifth brother will be there soon. Sixth brother, continue contacting the other tribes. Big brother. Seventh brother, Demon King Jiao hesitated. The voice on the other side pondered for a moment before saying, "We haven't figured out the problem with seventh brother yet. He has an extraordinary background, and his background surpasses all of us. Even if His Majesty values him greatly, he isn't loyal to us demons or His Majesty. In terms of cultivation and magical power, seventh brother is the strongest among us. The 4 chaotic world monkeys have extraordinary potential. But the 4 chaotic world monkeys are the descendants of the Chaos Demon Ape. The Chaos Demon Ape might be related to the demonic sect. There are too many mysteries about seventh brother. We haven't figured out his problem yet, so we can only make use of him and not put him in an important position. The plan this time is related to His Majesty's descent, and although it's a little troublesome, there aren't any existences that are too difficult to deal with. Let's not inform seventh brother." Crown Prince Bo-jun's primordial spirit was in a daze, but he didn't notice that something was wrong. Facing the powerful Crown Prince Mu, he was at a loss. He didn't comfort Zhang Jiao even when he was defeated. Instead, he revealed a look of fear. This made the Milky Way Navy's expert with great eyesight feel a little strange. He said in a low voice, "Why did Crown Prince Bo-jun lose his composure? Is he at a loss of what to do?" Commandant Qin didn't find it strange. He said with a chuckle, "Although Crown Prince Bo-jun has always been shrewd and ruthless, he is still a young man after all. Facing the usually low-key shepherd boy's sudden strength, it's only natural for him to lose his composure. Besides, I feel that Crown Prince Bo-jun's providence is a little low. Could it be that shepherd boy's providence is burgeoning and is suppressing him?" Crown Prince Bo-jun hurriedly said a few words before ending the sky bearing great meat. Although his subordinates felt that Crown Prince Bo-jun's standards had been greatly reduced, they believed that it was because he had not adjusted his mental state. They wanted to stop for today and let Crown Prince Bo-jun think of a countermeasure. It would be good for him to calm down. Therefore, no one stopped him. Crown Prince Mu went with the flow and watched coldly as they adjourned. In the great eastern wilderness, in the 100,000 mountains, a monkey was sitting on a treetop with his legs crossed. He was nibbling on a peach. His pair of golden eyes were extremely spirited and captivating. However, he had a lazy disposition and looked very casual. Although he was in the form of a beast, this monkey had a great background. He was a connate god. Among the Chaos Godfiends, he had an extremely strong murderous nature. He was also an expert among the Chaos Godfiends. After the Chaos Demon Ape, who had attained great divine powers, perished at the hands of Pangu, his essence transformed into one of the 4 chaotic world monkeys, Spiritual Stone Monkey. Spiritual Stone Monkey, the 7th great sage, moved his ears. Suddenly, he had 3 stacked ears. His 6 ears moved slightly, as if he was listening to something. After a while, he chewed on the peach pit and said vaguely, "Old ox is too petty. How can he say that my background is unknown? Old Sun's background is clean and he is from a good family. I know him very well. I never expected that old ox, who calls me brother on the surface, would be so guarded on the inside. Those brats from the demon sect are a little interesting. They dared to use sect leader Tongtian's tiger skin to pull their banner. Interesting, interesting. Saint Mother of Mount Li is my fourth sister, and we have a good relationship. That little white snake is her disciple, and seems to be at a disadvantage. I will also go and join in the fun. That monkey leaped into the void and disappeared without a trace. When he reappeared, he was already countless miles away in the bright, rugged region. If the other great sages were to see this, they would definitely be overwhelmed with shock. Chapter 1306. On the flying boat, little Qing suddenly laughed and said, "Interesting. Sister, that young Master Mu is really interesting. That young Master Wu Jie looks dumb, but he can actually cause such a big commotion. If we didn't see the four of them meet young Master Mu, we might also think that they are young Master Mu's men." Little White smiled and said, "Speaking of interesting, the four brothers we met earlier are even more interesting. Although we can see that they are extraordinary, we can't see their true origins. Previously, someone said that young Master Wu Jie is a strong man from the future. Now, it seems that it might be true. Not only is that Wu Jie, who killed Zhang Liang, a strong man from the future, I'm afraid his brothers are also." Little Qing covered her mouth and laughed and said, "No wonder they look like country bumpkins. Sister, you can see that there is something wrong with their origins, but you didn't expect it to be so big. The four strong men from the future and young Master Mu are not on the same side." Bai Suzhen said, "I'm afraid that young Master Mu has also come to his senses, but he wants to recruit the four strong men. Both sides are temporarily working closely on the stage. Now that the meeting is temporarily adjourned, they might have to show their cards when they go back. Young Master Mu is a big shot from the celestial heavens. He has power and influence, but he doesn't have wings, so it's hard for him to gain influence. On the other hand, the strong men from the future have strength and ability, but they have no foundation. They have their eyes on young Master Mu's flying shovel, and young Master Mu also thinks that their origins are clean." Little Qing frowned and said, "Sister, you're wrong about this. The four of them have very strange origins, coming from the future. Who knows how much karma they have? How can their origins be considered clean?" Bai Suzhen shook her head and said, "Little Qing, you're wrong about this. When I was a disciple of the Holy Mother, I once heard a rumor. It is said that there will be a great calamity in the future. There is a cliff downstream of the River of Eternity, and after that, no karma can be seen clearly. It is said that it is an immeasurable calamity. In the calamity, all karma will be cleared. It is the slaughtered demon ancestor holding the Yuan-Tu sword, using the killing calamity to clear the accumulated karma of the primordial era. That's why no one dares to plot against that calamity, because the more they know, the greater the karma of the killing calamity. Back then, when the goddess deduced the destiny of the primordial world, she had to avoid the two karma of the heaven and earth tribulation. Therefore, the experts from the future will definitely not have any karma with this era, especially the two karma of the heaven and earth tribulation. Heaven and earth's two great karma? Shaoqing furrowed her brows and said, "That's, the heavenly court governs the primordial world and reincarnates 3 lives. They are the 2 places with the heaviest karma with all living beings. The 2 great karma of heaven and earth refer to this." Little Qing was horrified. The killing tribulation clears 2 great karma. Doesn't that mean there will be a huge change in the heavenly court and hell? Since experts have come from the future, if we can obtain their memories, wouldn't we be able to find out the key to the great calamity? No wonder Prince Mu is trying so hard to recruit them. Bai Suzhen smiled and shook her head. "You're wrong, Little Qing. With the goddess's dignity, it is not impossible for her to calculate the two great karma of the heaven and earth tribulation. Furthermore, the heavenly courts are filled with talents and countless mighty figures. Back then, the goddess had reminded us that it is not that we are unable, but that we cannot and do not dare to. We are originally pure immortals. Why do we have to ask about the killing tribulation? The slaughtering demon ancestor raised UN too high and used the killing tribulation to clear the karma. If they know, they will have desires. If they have desires, they will definitely act. If they act rashly, they will definitely interfere with karma and fall into a trap. From then on, they will not be able to control themselves. Therefore, there are some things that cannot be calculated. Once they are calculated, they will definitely sense it. At that time, they will fall into the schemes of others. It will be like falling into a spider web and will never be able to escape. Furthermore, they might not know anything. If they can come from the future, the karma on them will definitely not be heavy. Otherwise, wouldn't the karma of the primordial world become a mess if everyone transmigrates? But Little Qing wanted to say something, but she was stopped by Suzhen. Little Qing, if you return to the Great Magi Demon War, you will also be someone from the future. However, how much do you know about the secrets of the Great Magi Demon War? Little Qing lowered her head and raised her nose slightly. She looked at Suzhen and said dejectedly, "The ancient era is shrouded in mystery. What can I know?" "That's right." Suzhen reached out and pulled her sister to her side. She pinched the bridge of her nose and said, "Even in our era, who dares to say that they can see clearly? Even the era we are in is so difficult to see clearly. Who would want to see through the future? Who would be so overconfident?" Little Qing said worriedly, "But those 4 future experts, as well as Prince Mu and Prince Bo Jun, have mysteriously come to this small sky-bearing conference. This is related to Big Sister's tribulation, aren't you worried?" Suzhen stepped out of the pleasure boat and came to the bow of the flying boat. She looked down at the celestial boats that were shuttling back and forth on the sea of clouds and said in a low voice, "My fate stems from my meritorious deeds." Her Majesty said that this is the result of me cultivating good karma and not cultivating heavenly technique. In the past, I was kind to people everywhere, helping the demonic spirits to reproduce, helping living beings to grow, and helping all living beings to grow. I have contributed to the Emperor of Heaven and gained the favor of the gods. Most of the demon spirits in the surroundings are on good terms with me. I often help the living beings in the mountains and rivers that stand aloof from worldly affairs. Although I have virtue and all living beings, gaining merit and virtue will make my progress in the Tao extraordinary, there are also hidden dangers. Although I'm on good terms with living beings and tribes that stand aloof from worldly affairs, standing aloof from worldly affairs doesn't mean that I'm free from karma. It's just that the karma isn't heavy. If not for that, I would have long been consigned to eternal damnation. The Emperor of Heaven established the merit dharma, bearing the karma of all living beings, and the one who benefits all living beings is God. Bearing the karma of all living beings without the body of a god is bound to result in a backlash. Since I admire the free and unfettered immortal Tao, I'm entangled with the karma of all living beings. Thus, I have great blessings but also great tribulations. Now that I'm suffering from the backlash of karma, if I can avoid it and settle the karma, I'll be able to gradually hide my immortal tracks and live freely in the world. If I can't avoid it, not only me, even the demon spirits and the human race that stand aloof from worldly affairs will be consigned to eternal damnation. This time, Little Qing only heard the cause and effect of this tribulation from Suzhen, and she was instantly shocked by the danger. She said in horror, "Big Sister is kind to others, so why did you suffer such a great tribulation? Is it wrong to be kind and merciful?" "Little Qing, don't say such foolish words. Big Sister has cultivated to this point, and has received countless blessings from all the merit and virtue. Now that there's only a little backlash, it's already a good thing that others can't even imagine. Moreover, merit is also a kind of karma. Merit is the heavenly Tao established by the Emperor of Heaven. It's the divine Tao, and also the Tao of the celestial court. The original intention of the Emperor of Heaven was to bear the karma of all living beings other than the gods who ruled the world on behalf of the celestial court. Therefore, merit is the divine Tao. To receive merit and benefit, you have to bear the responsibility and expectations of all living beings. After accepting the respect and expectations of all living beings, how can you not suffer a backlash if you still want to live freely? Therefore, ever since the great god Pangu created it, the divine Tao has been passed down endlessly. Therefore, if you want to cultivate the Tao of merit to be perfect and flawless, you have to be born and become a part of the celestial court. You have to integrate into the order of the celestial court ruling the primordial world. That's the so-called perfection of merit. Sorting out the heavenly Tao and circulating yin and yang naturally are the Tao of heaven, the Tao of God, and the Tao of merit. Governing all living beings and benefiting all living beings are also the Tao of holy virtue. Merit and holy virtue are not things that itinerant immortals can cultivate. Therefore, you can either be a god and bear the faith and expectations of all living beings. You can also enter the celestial court and integrate into the glorious and powerful divine Tao order. You can let the celestial court bear the burden of being a god for you and rely on the organization. Among the 5 virtues, merit is too high, and the holy virtue is too deep. Those who are not gods can't receive it. Only morality is natural, but it's too ethereal. Merit is too heavy, and virtue is too light. Doing good with virtue is not worthy of the position. The 5 virtues are all the immortal Tao. It's difficult to be perfected without entering the celestial court. Little Qing, my virtue is not worthy of the position. Little Qing was speechless. She had also received the blessing of merit and had benefited greatly. While the other little demons were still struggling in the dust, why did the sisters not have the luck and fortune to be born? The 2 little snake demons had a smooth journey and were even valued by a mighty figure like Old Mother of Mountley. Wasn't she also entangled by merit? However, just like how the gods relied on the celestial court organization, she also relied on the thin and tall figure in front of her. Along the way, all the heavy burdens were shouldered by her. She only needed to follow behind and enjoy the afterglow, perfect merit. How could it be said lightly? With perfect merit, one would naturally be successful in every endeavor and would not be harmed. The great Tao of merit had endless magical uses and was impervious to all tribulations. However, perfect merit was the divine Tao of Dara, which was the realm of the Emperor of Heaven, the 3 sovereigns, and even Goddess Hutu and the Supreme Divine Master. Such ancient gods had perfect merit. Only then could they bear the faith and expectations of all living beings. Just like the heavenly Tao, they were worthy of being called the heavenly Tao and the heavenly Tao. Now, the primordial divine Tao and mystic Tao were at the same time. However, in the glorious divine Tao era before the mystic door appeared, the great mystical beings who were called ancestors were called saints, just like those who sat on the lotus platform of Buddhism. Saints had perfect merit. They could bear the faith and protect the karma of all living beings under them. They could be impervious to all tribulations and could prove themselves among all living beings, never worrying about losing themselves. The divine Tao saints were sacred. The Tao of merit was the divine Tao that the celestial Dharch had comprehended. The Tao of order and the Tao of merit were perfect and flawless. One would be a grand heavenly immortal. If one could surpass it and control morality, one would be a divine. Although the mystic door was powerful, although the 3 pure ones occupied the orthodox Pangu clan, the divine Tao had never declined. The battle between divine and mystic was a battle between 2 forces that transcended all the conflicts in the primordial world. However, ever since the 3 sovereigns and 5 emperors established the orthodoxy of the human race, divine and mystic blended with each other, and the conflict was hidden in the deepest level. There was the divine Tao in the mystic door, and there was also the mystic door in the heavenly courts. The two were blended and had long been inseparable. Bai Suzhen's great tribulation was simple. It was nothing more than the conflict between the divine and mystic paths. Merit was originally the divine Tao. Although the Emperor of Heaven had opened up the great Tao of merit for all living beings and left a smooth path for the immortals of the mystic door, the smooth path was simple. The heaven's stairway would bear it for you. Without the heavenly courts bearing the karma, the conflict between the divine and mystic paths would lead to a tribulation. If Bai Suzhen was conferred the title by the heavenly courts, all the karma would naturally be borne by the heavenly courts. Why would there be a tribulation? However, since she had enjoyed the benefits of merit and did not want to be conferred the title by the heavenly courts, there would naturally be hidden dangers. Merit was the Tao of heaven, controlled yin and yang and operated the 4 seasons. Those who cultivated merit were naturally gods, while the holy virtue was the Tao of the common people. It was the Tao of the sages, such as Duke Zhou, Confucius, and the 3 sovereigns and 5 emperors. In the end, they still had to bear the expectations of all living beings and become gods. Morality was enlightenment and wisdom. Even the immortals of the mystic door would not suffer from the backlash of cultivating morality. However, it was too ethereal. Morality was perfect. Even under the Lord of Tao and virtue, there was only one Lord Xian Du. Merit was the common cultivator's impression of merit and virtue. Merit sounded simple. It was obeying the heavens. It was following the values of the heavenly courts. Doing what the heavenly courts thought was right and doing it in that direction was merit and virtue. However, the Emperor of Heaven had divided the merit and virtue into 2. One was controlled by the heavenly courts, which was the merit and virtue of the heavenly Tao. The other was controlled by the human race, which was the merit and virtue of humanity. The yin virtue was a burden. However, this virtue was greatly restricted by Lady Hutu. In the end, it could only be a special kind of merit that could be transferred between the descendants and ancestors. After the war of heaven and earth, the Emperor of Heaven first interfered with reincarnation with the Tao of yin virtue. Unfortunately, not long after the war of heaven and earth, the Emperor of Heaven had merged with the Tao and left. Then, the 3 religions intervened and messed up the yin virtue. Bai Suzhen did not know about this. There were some things that even the old mother of Mount Li, the goddess Wu Dang, or the Ajati matriarch of the divine Tao only knew a little. The old mother of Mount Li was the body of the eldest senior sister of the Jie sect, Wu Dang, and the tranquil immortal conferred by the heavenly courts. The Ajati matriarch was her divine Tao body. Bai Suzhen stood at the bow of the flying boat. She was a little lost in thought. Suddenly, she saw a middle-aged, black-faced, middle-aged rogue cultivator calmly accompanying a dark-skinned, burly man. Previously, the Shui Tu king pointed out that this person was one of the crouching tigers and hidden dragons at the sky-bearing conference. At that time, Bai Suzhen was a little surprised. She did not know why this famous demon King Jiao would come to this small scene to welcome the messengers from the heavenly courts. Who was that dark-skinned, burly man? How could the demon King Jiao condescend to accompany him? Bai Suzhen was a little curious. She weighed the flying boat lightly and said to Little Qing, "Little Qing, I'll be back soon. Guard this place well and wait for me to come back." "Sister." Before Little Qing could react, Bai Suzhen disappeared into the sea of clouds. The bull demon king put his hands behind his back and looked at the Milky Way navy of the heavenly courts anchored at the peak of a huge divine mountain. He looked down at the countless cultivators and immortals who had come to participate in the sky-bearing conference. There were many immortals coming and going from the countless divine mountains nearby. It was like a huge market. Countless cultivators from the bright barbaric region had come to participate. The bull demon king said lightly, What a noisy conference! How can the demon race not have a place in this great primordial world? The heavenly courts have brought too much suffering to the demon race. Too much. Although Tung Wang Kung has reformed, it is still too slow. The demon race needs more freedom. The heavenly courts are still executing the demons. Countless demon tribes are still being slaughtered. Today, we have to make our voices heard. We have suffered enough. The demon king Jiao sighed. It's time to end all this. The bull demon king turned his head. The clouds dispersed under his gaze, revealing a small white snake hiding within. She stared blankly at the two famous great sages. The bull demon king smiled and said, "Don't you think so, little demon?" The white snake said uneasily, "Great sage, humans and demons coexist peacefully now. The heavenly courts also have laws. Everything is getting better. Great sage, why are you in such a hurry?" The bull demon king laughed and said, "Little snake, you are a kind-hearted demon. Unfortunately, there are too few demons as weak as you. There are too few demons like you who are not oppressed by the heavenly courts. There are even more demons who are free, bold, unbridled, and simple. They are being oppressed. Why should demons obey the heavenly courts? The heavenly courts are not reconciling with the demon race, but with the demon race that obeys the heavenly courts. And demons never obey. The heavenly courts are too lenient, and the laws are too harsh. We just want to return to the primordial world, when all the races competed for freedom, carefree and unbridled." Bai Suzhen's expression changed. The bull demon king said lightly, "It's time." The white snake hurriedly stopped him and said, "But great sage, many humans and demons will die. Many demons and humans who have nothing to do with the world will be involved in the war. The primordial world will be filled with rivers of blood. Isn't this what they should pay?" The bull demon king said calmly, "No matter how difficult and tragic it is, can it be more tragic than the Great Magi Demon War? During the Great Magi Demon War, the demon race was still prosperous and full of vitality. Isn't killing, death, and elimination part of the demon race's way of survival? There are too many demons like you who are greedy for the illusion of peace created by the heavenly courts. They ignore that their peace is built on the blood and tears of other compatriots. They need blood and fire to wake them up and understand that the peace and harmony bestowed by the heavenly courts is just an illusory bubble. It's time to wake them up." Chapter 1307. Brother Wu Jie, where are you from? Returning to the place where the Milky Way Navy was temporarily stationed, Imperial Prince Mu asked Fan Wu Jie with a smile. He stood in the palace that was made of divine wudong wood and white jade. He wore a black robe with the patterns of the sun, moon, and stars on it. It was very gorgeous. At this moment, he had the appearance of a prince. What happened today seemed to have given him a great shock. Shepherd Boy seemed to have woken up from a dream. He was in high spirit. Perhaps this was the change that power had on people. Thankfully, Shepherd Boy Lord did not immediately change into a different person. His tone was still as sincere as before. It could even be said to be a little pedantic and straightforward. Looking into his eyes, Fan Wujie could still feel the sincerity and kindness in them. It was not like Prince Bo Jun was pretending to be profound and unfathomable. "Brother Wujie, don't use the excuse that you came from a remote village to fool me. A desolate place would not be able to nurture people like Brother Wujie, Shan Sheng, Pao Tu, and Jingyang Zi. They must have gathered the essence of a place, with outstanding talents." Fan Wujie smiled bitterly and said, "Jingyang Zi and the others have sold me out completely. I don't have to hide anything for them anymore. Brother Butcher and the others seem to have leaked Brother Wujie's secrets." Imperial Prince Mu revealed a wry smile and said, "When Brother Wujie challenged Zhang Liang, they told you a lot of the truth. This is also the first time I found out that the 9 sects staff, the nominal treasure of the Grand Peace sect, is actually a connate numinous treasure. Moreover, it was the most powerful numinous treasure among the 9 emperors under the command of the primordial heavenly king. I've heard of the primeval 9 emperors as well. My father, Celestial Emperor Donghua, is one of them. He's an extremely ancient god. The era of attaining the Tao was even before the heavenly court. However, after the Emperor of Heaven established his Tao in the heavenly court, only my father, Emperor Donghua, and the leader of the deities above the primeval 9 emperors, Dong Wangkung, chose to be loyal to the heavenly court. The other 8 emperors chose to live in seclusion. Now it seems that some of them have retired in name, but their hearts have not. Fan Wujie sighed and said, "Now that things have come to this, I won't hide it from Brother Mu anymore. Yes, we are all guests who have accidentally stumbled into this era. Brother Wujie, you came from the future. Do you want to change something?" Prince Mu asked curiously. Could it be that Brother Wujie has a woman whom you love so deeply that you are willing to reverse the universe and reverse the yin and yang to come to this era to meet her? Or did something happen in this era that Brother Wujie feels regretful about, so you came here to change it? Fan Wujie shook his head and said, "What if I say that in the future resources will be scarce, the great Tao will be hidden, civilization will be regressing, and the path of cultivation will be in a serious decline? Even the path of Dara and the celestial emperors of the celestial heavens will become legends? That is why we have to go against the current and come to this era in search of an opportunity. Brother Mu, do you believe me?" When Imperial Prince Mu heard this, he didn't show any surprise. Instead, he revealed a faint but sad expression. On the other hand, Brahma Wujie was surprised. "Brother Mu, aren't you surprised? You are not from this era, so you might not feel it. But in the celestial heavens, who doesn't feel the impending storm? Perhaps those gods of virtue who indulge in the power of the celestial heavens, or those free and unfettered immortals who sing and dance to celebrate peace, don't feel it. But for people like us who are in touch with reality and observe the celestial heavens from a distance, it is obvious. The feeling of the undercurrent and the impending storm couldn't be any more obvious. The Emperor of Heaven has fused with the Tao. The world has changed, and so has the celestial heavens. The silhouette that suppressed everything is slowly fading away, and people's minds are changing. If you stand in that position, this feeling couldn't be any more obvious. Although I am not in power, my father is in charge of yin and yang on behalf of Emperor Zhuanqiu. He is the ruler of the celestial heavens. Every day, he tidies up the primordial universe from the sun and moon, the movement of the stars, the rise and fall of vitality, and the affairs of the 3 religions. Is there anyone who knows the undercurrent of the primordial universe better than him? I am by his side every day, so how could I not know? Fan Wujie sighed and said, "So the general trend of the primordial universe is already this obvious?" Crown Prince Mu sighed with emotion and said, "This time, I secretly left because I wanted to see the most specific and minute details of the untainted land. The cracks in the heavenly court are becoming more and more obvious. The local tyrants are getting restless, and even the Buddhist cult, dark cult, and demon cult are getting restless. In the celestial heavens, I can only feel the cracks between the factions, but in the primordial universe, I can feel the restless situation after the order established by the Emperor of Heaven was overthrown. There are more and more conflicts between the heavens and humans. I can see the restlessness of the celestial heavens in the kingdoms of the human race. Although the dynasties in the human world can't and don't dare to rebel against the celestial heavens, and although they still call themselves the Son of Heaven, they no longer represent the will of the celestial heavens to govern and lead the people of the human race. They also no longer follow the great Tao of holy virtue established by the Emperor of Heaven. Instead, they gradually take the power to themselves. The Son of Heaven doesn't govern on behalf of the heavens, but rather, he wants to enforce justice on behalf of the heavens. They are beginning to be dissatisfied with the order established by the celestial heavens, and they are dissatisfied with the orders given by the celestial heavens, even if they are gods. And among the more primitive tribes, the human tribes led by the witch sect have also begun to be dissatisfied with the restrictions placed on them by the gods to obtain resources. The celestial heavens are restricting the development of the human civilization. Not to mention the demons and barbarians, even the gods are dissatisfied. They hate the greed of the people, and they are tired of the destruction of the world, nature, and the operation of the great Tao. The gods who adhere to the divine Tao and run the sun and moon are dissatisfied with the destruction of nature by the people. Meanwhile, the gods who run the human Tao are involved in the cause and effect of the human Tao. Gradually, they are tainted by the desires of the human Tao, and they can no longer maintain their rationality and neutrality. My father has long noticed that the order of the celestial heavens is in chaos. Tung Wang Kung thinks that the celestial heavens are too involved, and everything is for the sake of the people. The Emperor of Heaven has decided that the gods will establish their lives for the people, and the people will establish their hearts for the God. They come from the people, go to the people, and bear the expectations and cause and effect of the people. It's too naive. The celestial heavens can't bear the huge cause and effect of the people in the primordial universe. Even the Emperor of Heaven can't bear it. That's why he joined the Tao and left. My father and Tung Wang Kung both feel that the celestial heavens needs to change. The matters of the living beings should be handed over to the living beings themselves. The celestial heavens only needs to control the fate of all living beings. The celestial heavens does not need all living beings to feel that the celestial heavens are everywhere. Instead, it needs all living beings to not feel that it is everywhere. There is no need for all living beings to be united. There are too many living beings who have embarked on the path of cultivation. Because they know how to cultivate, they feel that the celestial heavens are restricting and controlling them. Because they know how to cultivate, all living beings are uneasy. The Emperor of Heaven is happy to cultivate with all living beings. He even hopes that all living beings will succeed in their cultivation and achieve the Tao. He believes that the celestial heavens and all living beings are of the same mind. The more intelligent and intelligent all living beings are, the stronger and more perfect the power that can change the world and reshape everything will be until they walk on the path of the perfect world in the Emperor of Heaven's heart. However, Emperor Zhuanxu and Tung Wang Kung are not as optimistic as the Emperor of Heaven, or rather, they think pessimistically that the primordial universe can't accommodate too many powerful and wise almighties. Cultivation will only create too many unstable factors in the eyes of the celestial heavens. The gods of the celestial heavens have long been fed up with those greedy, reckless, cruel, and even ignorant and vicious cultivators. They cut off the spirit veins, they harvest without restraint, they kill each other, they slaughter the weak, they are demons. Some gods want to return to the pastoral era of the ancient primordial universe, the simple and natural era, the era without too many prosperous cultivation civilizations. Some gods want to control these uncontrollable factors, to build a stricter order, to build a stricter hierarchy. This kind of thinking is called Jedi Tiantong. A bolt of lightning split Brahma Wu Jie's confusion. He murmured, Jedi Tiantong. Yes, Jedi Tiantong. Cut off the world tree, control the path of cultivation, and separate the heavens and the people. The gods who run the great Tao are high above, manipulating everything and managing all living beings. The gods who are involved in the affairs of all living beings collude with local tyrants and cultivation sects to collect the path of cultivation in the world. Resources are concentrated, and the heavens and the people are separated. They cut off the path of advancement for all living beings. Brahma Wu Jie thought, isn't that the current state of the Brahma heaven realm? Or the state of the entire age of heavens? Is the celestial heavens really destroyed in the age of heavens? Brahma Wu Jie shuddered. Or is it already high above, Jedi Tiantong, looking down on all the heavens? Prince Mu said in confusion, Yes. Jedi Tiantong. Collect the spirit veins and spirit veins of the world to the heaven realm. All the essence of the primordial universe is brought up to the heaven realm by those great God. All the immortals have to ascend to the heaven realm, and then open up the 9 heavens, making the great heaven the highest heaven, and the 8 heavens below it to accommodate immortals of different levels. Those tyrants are separated from the foundation of their growth. A gold immortal can act like a tyrant in the primordial universe, but in a world full of gold immortals, what is he worth? Clear and separate the classes, leaving only the mortals who cannot become immortals in the primordial universe, and promoting the elites to become immortals. Then, using the 8 heavens to imprison the immortals in different systems, dividing them and absorbing them. Tung Wang Kung's idea was to establish a perfect, unbreakable rule. Emperor Zhuanxu's Jedi Tiantong only hoped that humans and gods would not interfere with each other, cutting off the world tree, raising the height of the heaven realm, allowing the divine power to operate more covertly, and eliminating the conflicts between humans and God. Tung Wang Kung's Jedi Tiantong was prepared to cut off the path of advancement for all living beings. Speaking of which, Tung Wang Kung is more ambitious. So, even though Tung Wang Kung was demoted and reincarnated, there are still so many gods and imperial emperors following his path. Brahma Wu Jia thought more. So, Emperor Ziyang came from the future, but still wanted to control the heaven realm. Did he not know that the heaven realm would collapse in the future? Unless, he did not know if the heaven realm would collapse in the future. Because once his plan was completed, the myriad heavens could become a world after Jedi Tiantong, and there would be a high and mighty heaven realm, looking down on everything. If that's really the case, then Emperor Ziyang's plan could be said to have been realized perfectly. This is because all living beings do not feel that there is a heavenly court above their heads that restricts their freedom. Even us Downlords do not feel it. The myriad heavens and the primordial world have shattered. Aren't they just isolated small worlds? Such small worlds are indeed easier to control. This is because even us Downlords are just blindly exploring the realm sea. If the heavenly court could really control everything, they might not even be able to sense it. Was controlling the fate of all living beings a god? This was the first time Brahma Wu Jia felt such deep fear. It's time to take action. In front of the divine mountain where the Milky Way Navy was stationed, a tall figure said softly. Demon King Scaled Dragon followed behind the tall figure and looked at the hidden array diagram in surprise. He whispered, "Brother, why did you bring the 9 planets formation diagram here?" It's not the complete 9 planets formation diagram. It's just a variation of the 9 planets formation. It's called the 9 planets heaven shrouding formation. It can isolate the 2 realms and hide everything. Once this formation is activated, the Milky Way Navy will not be able to react in time. The 9 planets formation diagram is one of the core array formations of the Divine Court's Heavenly Cycle Stellar Array. It will definitely be difficult for the Milky Way Navy to break through it. Bull Demon King held his hands behind his back as he slowly walked up the stairs and entered the palace where Prince Mu was. Commandant Sheen of the Milky Way Navy was suddenly summoned to his side palace by Prince Bo Jun. This was an extremely abrupt action. If not for the fact that Prince Bo Jun was a patroller of the heavenly courts and that the Milky Way Navy was responsible for cooperating, Commandant Sheen would not have come at all. However, just as he stepped into Prince Bo Jun's side palace, he suddenly felt a change in space. The 9 stars suddenly fell towards Prince Mu's Tunghua Palace. The entire Jade Palace turned dark and gloomy, isolated from the world. Commandant Sheen raised his head to look at the stunned Prince Bo Jun. Countless interesting expressions flashed across his face. Finally, they turned sinister as he said coldly, "Prince Bo Jun, you called me here at the right time." Heavenly Eye, who was beside him, forced out a divine beam from his eyes. It shot straight into the darkness that was obscured by the 9 planets' heaven-shrouding formation diagram. The divine beam advanced a few feet before vanishing into the darkness. Heavenly I was sweating profusely as he said anxiously, "This array formation is unusual." Commandant Sheen raised his head and said, "It is unusual. The heavenly cycle stellar array is shaking. The stars are the political power of the heavenly courts. The Milky Way Navy is the mighty army that the heavenly courts use to suppress the countless stars in the Milky Way. Who else can shake the power of the stars in front of the Milky Way Navy?" Heavenly I was stunned for a moment before coming to a realization. He gritted his teeth and said, "The remnants of the demon court. The heavenly cycle stellar array." Prince Bo-jun was truly stunned. He stood up and hurried a few steps to look in the direction of Tunghua Palace. His mind was in a daze, and he actually didn't know what to do. After a moment of blankness, he came back to his senses and said firmly, "There are demons attacking the camp. Commandant Sheen, quickly protect Prince Mu." Commandant Sheen's expression turned even colder as he said coldly, "The remnants of the demon court attacked with the heavenly cycle stellar array, and I was summoned out of Tunghua Palace by His Highness. Now that I'm isolated by the array, how does His Highness expect me to protect Prince Mu?" Prince Bo-jun was also muddle-headed as he said, "Commandant Sheen, do you think that I transferred you away from Prince Mu's side?" As soon as he said this, his heart sank. No matter what the heavenly courts did in public, they couldn't bring it to the surface. Now that he had pointed out the distrust and political division, not only did he break the rules, but he also left himself with no room to maneuver. How could he say this? He should pretend that it didn't exist. Not to mention that he didn't do it, even if he did, he should pretend that it didn't exist. It was best to pretend that such a possibility didn't exist. Pointing out the irreconcilable conflict between the two princes was also to break through the political resistance of the heavenly courts. Originally, this layer of political resistance could be an advantage for Prince Bo-jun to protect himself, but now that it was pointed out, it became a disadvantage instead. In the future, if Celestial Emperor Dong Hua's faction wanted to pursue this matter, they only needed to lightly mention what he said today. He said again, "Since Prince Bo-jun has this worry, we should clear his name." Then, the political resistance of needing to prove that Prince Bo-jun might have colluded with the demon race to assassinate another prince became Prince Bo-jun's dilemma of needing to prove that he didn't have such intentions. Chapter 1308. Tunghua Palace fell into darkness, and the sun, moon, and stars in the sky disappeared. Imperial Prince Mu woke up with a start. Fan Wujia looked up and saw that Tunghua Palace was already surrounded by a dark void. 2 figures were knocking on the steps in front of Tunghua Palace. One was tall and mighty, the other tall and thin. Their shadows were long and twisted like dragons and snakes. Fan Wujia recognized Demon King Jiao at first glance and stepped forward to protect Imperial Prince Mu. Imperial Prince Mu looked at the 2 monster great sages walking toward him and said in realization, "So Demon King Jiao is here for me." No wonder Demon King Jiao would condescend to participate in the sky-bearing conference. Imperial Prince Mu smiled and said, "The other should be a big shot of the monster race, a future great sage of the monster race. Now, he's condescending to kill me, a prince with no power or influence in the celestial heavens. What a surprise! To be attacked by 2 monster leaders. Even if I die, it won't be in vain." "Imperial Prince, you underestimate yourself too much." Demon King Jiao laughed. Although Imperial Prince's cultivation is weak, his status is extraordinary and very important. Your father, Celestial Emperor Dong Hua, is the right-hand man of Celestial Emperor Zhuanshu and the vice-ruler of the celestial heavens. Now, there is also Celestial Emperor Ziyang's beloved son. Today, Imperial Prince's death is destined to cause a mess. Imperial Prince Mu said indifferently, "You underestimate Ziyang too much. If Imperial Prince Bo-jun can't explain clearly, How about letting him be assassinated by the monster race as well? Demon King Jiao was silent for a long time before he laughed. He really can do it. Unfortunately, he doesn't have to. Beside Demon King Jiao, Bull Demon King said, because I've brought the murderer of Imperial Prince Mu today. Bull Demon King waved his hand and tossed a small white snake to the ground. Imperial Prince Mu glanced at the white snake and said in understanding, a meritorious monster, but as a scapegoat, she's still too weak. Halfway through his sentence, Imperial Prince Mu saw the calm expressions on the two's faces and said with relief, that's right. Imperial Prince Bo Jun doesn't care. He will definitely do as you wish and frame her, even inciting a massacre of the monster race. Trust and peace between two races with deep grudges are fragile to begin with. It is far too easy for ambitious people like you to break this fragile trust. But you actually have the heart to use so many demons as sacrifices. Although Imperial Prince Mu was naive, he was no fool. He naturally knew that once the war between humans and demons broke out, the first to suffer would not be the heavenly court, nor would it be the powerful forces of the demon race like Demon King Jiao and Demon King Ok. Instead, it would be Bai Suzhen, who was caught in the middle. She was a demon, but she was a gentle demon who was loyal to the heavenly court. When these gentle demons were either slaughtered by the heavenly courts under the control of Bo Jun, or they became hostile to the human race and joined Demon King Jiao's side, a full-scale war between humans and demons would begin. Demon King Jiao and Demon King Ox looked at each other and burst into laughter. Demon King Jiao found Imperial Prince Mu's naivety a little ridiculous, so he mocked, what do their lives have to do with me? The demon race had never been like the human race, which had a unified belief and culture. They were not united, and there were even many conflicts and disputes between them. Demons who were not part of their own tribes were not part of their forces. It was too funny to ask Demon King Jiao, who had been slaughtering and annexing other demon tribes to strengthen his own forces and grow into a great sage of the demon race, to understand Imperial Prince Mu's idea of his own kind. In their eyes, the demon tribes that were close to the heavenly court were the wings of their enemies. Of course, they had to weaken their forces by slaughtering them and deceiving them into joining their forces. Then, they would annex the population and strength of these tribes to strengthen their own forces. The most basic unit of interest of the demon race was the tribe, and above the concept of tribe, the true unity of the demon race was the heavenly court. Demon King Jiao and Demon King Ox's goal was to strengthen their own tribes and follow the heavenly court to rule the primordial universe. As for those demons, since they did not follow the heavenly court and were not part of their own tribes, what did their lives have to do with them? Imperial Prince Mu, go on your way, Demon King Ox said calmly. Today, the Imperial Prince was tempted by lust and kidnapped the beauty of the demon race, Bai Suzhen. He was blinded by lust and tried to use force in Tunghua Palace. Bai Suzhen resisted with all her might and killed him by mistake. The Imperial Prince has been mediocre for half of his life, but before he died, he actually did such a great thing and caused the demon race to riot. His life has not been wasted. Demon King Ox was very burly, like a standing bull. His hair was disheveled, and his eyes swept across them with a divine light. Facing Demon King Ox, Fan Wujie felt unprecedented pressure. At this time, he could be considered to be facing the top figures of this era alone. Zhang Liang was just relying on his brother's name and strength. Zhang Jiao was plotted against by Yuan Yu and the others. Yuan Yu was a lord of Dara, but he had shamelessly disguised as a Dao lord. It was already very wretched. Unexpectedly, the sea-calming divine pearl had suddenly appeared to help him. It could be said that Zhang Jiao had lost very sullenly. But now Yuan Yu and Xue Tu were stopped by other great sages. In Tunghua Palace, only Fan Wujie and Imperial Prince Mu were facing Demon King Ox and Demon King Jiao, who were ranked first and second among the 7 great sages. I'm afraid Xingyang Zi and the others are also stopped. Fan Wujie sensed that they had fallen into the space formed by the formation. The surrounding space was dark and deep, and he knew that they would not be able to wait for reinforcements. I was still too careless. Fan Wujie sighed inwardly. He thought that with the tyrannical Milky Way Navy, under the suppression of the Heavenly Court, no one would dare to violate the laws of heaven, and that they were safe in the camp of the Milky Way Navy. But the decisiveness and determination of the demon race was shocking. In the vicinity of the Milky Way Navy, the Imperial Prince of the Heavenly Court still dared to attack. Defeating a mere Zhongliang, I actually underestimated the heroes of the untainted land. Under the shadow of Demon King Ox's godly might, Fan Wujie felt relieved. The untainted land is so big, what is a mere Zhongliang and Zhongjiao compared to the road of peace? For the first time, Fan Wujie was alone, facing an enemy that was thousands of times stronger than him. He could clearly tell that Demon King Ox was the kind of person who was at the pinnacle of Tao Monarch, determined by the Tai, and even someone who was only a thin layer of paper away from Dara. He was the strongest person he had met in his life, second only to Dara. But so what? Fan Wujie raised his head and looked at Demon King Ox, who was almost twice his size. Only then did Demon King Ox's eyes move a little. Interesting. It was just a single strike. The Bull Demon King stretched out a finger, and the universal barrier that Fan Wujie had laid down using all of the universal true water for 3,000 years suddenly shattered. The universal barrier was silent, it was both space and time and space as one. Even though it had been 3,000 years, it was still not enough to withstand a single finger from the Bull Demon King. Fan Wujie could feel that the Bull Demon King was incomparably tyrannical, the purest power. The pinnacle of power. Shattering the vacuum. Demon King said lightly, I have no other magical powers, and I don't know any Dao techniques. I only have brute force. Your time divine art is very wondrous, as expected of an expert who came from the future. There are countless innate divine arts in the monster race that are as wondrous as yours, and every race has astonishing abilities. The 5-colored divine light can devour heaven and earth and reverse the universe. They all have astonishing divine arts, and they have comprehended countless divine arts. Your time divine art is very good, and it is not inferior to the Candle Moon tribe. And I, Old Bull, am just a man with a lot of strength. In front of the God Emperor, I am just a cart driver, but the God Emperor valued me very much. One day, when I was pulling his cart, he asked me something, and I told him, I have no other abilities, and I don't have that kind of understanding and wisdom, so I can only let my stubborn temper train my strength. But the God Emperor said that the pinnacle of power can shatter the vacuum, and only the wise and foolish can be unwavering, and the foolish will be confused. He smiled and said to me, as long as one's mind is firm, how can one not shatter all techniques, and rule the world with one punch? The Bull Demon King laughed out loud, his voice shaking the whole world, causing the space of the 9 luminary sky shrouding formation to tremble. There was an unshakable determination in his words, a heroic spirit that looked down on the world. Your weak magic, I could have shattered it when I was still at the threshold of primordial immortal. I like the look in your eyes. Demon King roared angrily. But your magical powers are too weak, not as strong as the look in your eyes. He punched out, and the overwhelming power instantly drowned out all of Fan Wujie's resistance, shattering the strongest cosmic light divine art that Fan Wujie had condensed, shattering it inch by inch from the most basic and essential point of all magical powers, the cosmic light true water. The essence of all of Fan Wujie's cosmic light divine art did not surpass the Kane 10 Daos and 9 true water that Patriarch River Styx had condensed. And the Bull Demon King's fist could already shatter this basic principle. Shattering the cosmic light divine art, this unwavering fist will and power, was not far from Dara. Demon King's power and fist could only be described with one word: unwavering. Step by step, he moved forward, always firm. Perhaps he would slow down, perhaps he would stagnate, but he would never hesitate or retreat. He was firm beyond time. Even if the cosmic light divine art scattered his power into a timeline, scattered it into the endless tribulations, scattered it into every bit of weak power, he would still unwaveringly continue to fight. After the endless tribulations, when water droplets could pierce through stone, the weakest power would gather into the mightiest, unrivaled tide of power. The result would not change. Fan Wujie's river of time reincarnation had already spread the power of the Bull Demon King across the entire reincarnation cycle. Every moment of reincarnation, the body of the reincarnation cycle only bore a small portion of the power. But this firm power could not be eroded by time. At the very beginning, it was just the power of a drop of water on the body. Not to mention Fan Wujie's godly body, even a weak baby would not be harmed by it. But this power was firm and unwavering, like a drop of water that constantly fell, polishing Fan Wujie's entire body of reincarnation. Then in the next moment, there was another drop of water's power. This unwavering fist power, as time passed, gathered into a torrent that crushed everything. When it reached the middle of the body of reincarnation, it was already enough to crush Fan Wujie's divine body. Fan Wujie could divide the damage over time, but Demon King's fist power could transcend time, unwavering. Demon King's power had already pierced through time. This unwavering power allowed him to lightly press down on a boulder like a mortal's finger, but that finger power would never dissipate. Bit by bit, it deepened on the boulder until it pierced through the boulder. This was the unwavering power. Fan Wujie's divine body instantly shattered, turning into a bloody mist. Reincarnation. Fan Wujie could only use his great supernatural power to reincarnate. But Demon King's expression did not change in the slightest. He only punched out again, crushing the reincarnated Fan Wujie once again. Fan Wujie was completely helpless. Demon King's unchanging power completely restrained his transformations. What Demon King was least afraid of were those fancy transformations of supernatural powers. No matter what kind of supernatural power you used, no matter how many transformations you used, he still only needed to punch after punch to crush it. The unwavering power meant that if there was no way to instantly crush Demon King, he would be able to gather a monstrous power and beat you to death. Could Fan Wujie instantly crush Demon King? He could not. So he could only be beaten to death by Demon King. Among the people he had met, perhaps only Demon Ancestor Luo of Destruction could crush Demon King's perseverance. Demon King's perseverance was that as long as he walked step by step, he would definitely reach the end. And the great Tao of Destruction itself was the end. The great Tao of Destruction would not give Demon King the chance to walk step by step. Demon King's fists were the fists of the foolish old man, the fists of the bull's temper, the fists of the straight. But the power of time was most powerless against the fists of the straight. So Fan Wujie was completely helpless against Demon King. He had already been crushed hundreds of times, and Demon King did not care about his clumsy punches. He only wanted to prove that he could obliterate the undying cycle of reincarnation, that he was firm and unwavering, that he could surpass reincarnation. Demon King Jiao could feel the unwavering strength of Demon King, and he wiped the cold sweat off his forehead. This made him think back to when they were fighting for the position of Great Sage. Demon King Jiao had also punched like this, and other than the mysterious and unscrupulous seventh brother, everyone else had been trampled like this, until the old bull had punched until there was no one else in front of him. As the second brother, Demon King Jiao had been pressed to the ground and rubbed. This was not a good memory. Demon King Jiao walked past Fan Wujie, who was being beaten by Demon King Jiao, and came before Imperial Prince Mu, whose face was slightly pale. He smiled and said in a low voice, "I am the great sage of the ocean cover, and I am here to send you on your way." Imperial Prince Mu smiled sadly and said, "So you are already a great sage? How many great sages does the demon race have? And how many of them are here to send me off today?" 6 of the 7 great sages are here. Demon King Jiao gave Imperial Prince Mu some time. Have the other great sages gone to stop Zheng Yangzi, Butcher, and Commandant Qin? The demon race really thinks highly of me, shepherd boy. Imperial Prince Mu laughed loudly. Then let's fight. Bai Suzhen was suppressed by the old bull's fist intent. That unwavering strength made it hard for her to breathe. At this moment, her eyes were filled with grief. The white snake's body was small and crystalline, and it was actually somewhat adorable. Just as she summoned a bit of her demonic power, it was easily dispersed by the power left behind by the old bull. The greatest characteristic of Demon King Jiao's dermic powers was its stubbornness, as if it would not dissipate at all. It was as stubborn as its master's bull's temper. She struggled with all her might, and when she looked up again, she saw Demon King Jiao's trident break through Imperial Prince Mu's immortal light and stab into his chest. Imperial Prince Mu cannot die. This was the only thought in the white snake's mind. If Imperial Prince Mu dies and I am framed, that Imperial Prince Bo Jun, who is colluding with the demons, will go on a rampage without any qualms. When that happens, all the demons I know will die. Those demons that stand aloof from worldly affairs will be embroiled in the calamity, and the peaceful coexistence between humans and demons will be broken. Bai Suzhen's tribulation stems from the karma of all living beings. It will definitely affect all living beings. Bai Suzhen thought of those demon spirits that were truly grateful to her. Those demon spirits that stood aloof from worldly affairs and lived a peaceful life. Even humans, those young and ignorant demon spirits, had called her Queen Mother White Snake. They had given her their favorite things, be it a beautiful flower, a clumsy clay sculpture, or a crude toy. Bai Suzhen had protected them due to her kindness. She had protected the weak demon spirits, and even the human tribes. However, after receiving Old Mother of Mount Li's guidance and understanding the great Tao of merit, she had alienated them. Originally, this kind of instinctive kindness should have dissolved the darkness and coldness of her snake nature, and she would have become a goddess with a snake body of een like Empress Hua and Hutu. However, because she had understood cultivation and walked on the path of the mystic door, these karma and expectations had become restraints and burdens. After bearing the expectations of all living beings, I have to bear the responsibility of all living beings. Only the one who protects his people is God. The fate of God and his people is one. The one who bears the burden of all living beings is God. The one who is compassionate towards all living beings is God. God isn't emotionless, but he is sentimental. If God was emotionless, why would he protect? Why would he be compassionate? Why would Goddess Nuwa sacrifice herself to mend the heavens? Why would Goddess Hutu transform into reincarnation? This is caused by merit. For the immortal Tao, it is a tribulation, but for the divine Tao, it is a responsibility. Tribulation can be avoided, but not responsibility. Today's tribulation, I will not only survive for myself, but also bear the fate of the demon spirits and humans who have high expectations of me, who believe in me, and who worship me. For them, I will risk my life to stop you. 7 great sages. The divine light of merit floated on by Suzhen's body and settled down bit by bit, gaining weight and quality. This did not seem to change anything, but it seemed to have changed something in Bai Suzhen's nature. On Mount Li, Incongruent's Divine Mother was immersing herself in meditation. Suddenly, she stopped and smiled in the void hometown. Incongruent's Divine Mother opened her eyes and looked lovingly at the untainted land. In the 9 luminaries' sky-covering formation, Yuan Yu knocked the Lion Camel King into the dust. He was expressionless as he glanced at the Rock Demon King, King Yu Luo. The Shui Tu King had a murderous look on his face. He raised a boundless sea of blood and faced the Rock Demon King. Ajati raised his sword chi and pierced through the King Yuluo's psyche. The rock demon king stared coldly at the lion camel king, who had been knocked into the dust by Yuan Yu. The surrounding sea of blood kept pressing down. The rock demon king's expression finally changed. With a hint of seriousness, he flicked out a jade talisman. In the next moment, the innate inextinguishable divine light tore the sea of blood. Wind and thunder roared, and its momentum melted into a piece of mixed essence. The mixed essence shook and tore the sea of blood apart, forcing out a bloody shadow. The Shui-Tu King's escaping light was dim, and his figure was in a mess. If it was not for a faintly discernible shadow of the blood Lianhua protecting his real body, even his demon body would have been beaten back into the bloody light. In the next moment, the jade talisman met the sea-calming divine pearl. Under Yuan Yu's intentional restraint, it was a draw. Prince Mu's pale golden blood sprayed out, and splashed on by Suzhen. The blood of the descendant of celestial Emperor Dong Hua carried a hint of warmth and yang qi. At this moment, the talisman given by the old mother of Mount Li on the white snake was splashed by the blood of the emperor, and a hint of purple qi appeared.